Whoa, what's going on, people? We're a little late today. There's a storm coming, so hopefully it doesn't knock out our internet. And as promised, and I'm very excited for this one because probably the biggest question that we get from a lot of people is legal questions. And so today we have FKC Legal with us, who we're going to bring on in a little bit. We're going to learn about them. But the real cool thing is that they were gracious enough to offer their time tonight, which is 7 p.m. East African time. And it's obviously noon in the US, but they are willing to answer your guys' questions and give you a better perspective and help clear things up, because the information is all over the place about legal stuff in Kenya, especially revolving around investing, purchasing real estate, etc., etc. So, they've really offered their time to do that. So I'm super appreciative, and I'm going to give you guys some time to get in here. If you guys don't know me, my name is Ryan Fagan. I've been in real estate in the US for 15 years. I own a real estate brokerage here in New Jersey, and I have been traveling to Kenya, purchasing some property and showing you guys what's out there, what's available, and diving deeper even beyond real estate, starting to get into some business, and been interviewing a lot of different people. And I think this is a amazing collaboration that we're doing with FKC Legal, because there are so many things that you need to know about legal, even just traveling, immigration, business entities, taxes, hiring people, basically anything that you're trying to do above visiting Kenya. You're going to need some legal help and advice. And it's really good to have a very reputable company and a preferred partner that you can know that you'll be in good hands when you're asking questions, because I've been crashing out and talking to many different lawyers, and you get a lot of different information, a lot of different pricing, and we're going to get into all those factors. But you can kind of feel safe going with our guys, and make sure that the information you're getting is good, and also the pricing that you're getting is good. And so I'm really happy to do this today. So let's talk to Franklin and Abdi with FKC Legal. Welcome, guys. How are you? Can you hear me? Oh, no. What's going on? Can you guys hear me? Are you guys watching the stream and streaming? It might be too much to on the bandwidth there, maybe, because I don't hear anything.
Yeah, I said, right.
Oh, I hear you a little bit, but it sounds weird. You may need to not watch the stream while you're streaming from the phone, because maybe it's eating your bandwidth. I don't know, because it was working fine 2 seconds ago. The audio sounds weird.
Yes, there is definitely some issue
I'm
there.
having trouble
Yes,
hearing you
check that.
guys. What's going on with that?
There's definitely some issue with the audio.
Are you hearing the
You really feel
issue?
like it's coming from your side.
Oh, is it from me?
Yeah, we feel that. I don't know if
Try it now.
it's really scratchy. Yeah, same, still. Which speaker?
Oh, it, it could be for me. What happened? Say something. I don't hear anything. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys, technical difficulties. This is what we were working out while we were late, but
Just trying to say something, Brian.
yeah, it sounds like distorted or something.
Still very.
I don't know why it's sounding like that. Maybe hop off and hop back on. I don't know. Sorry, guys. First time trying to do. Well, we've had people on before. It hasn't been a problem. I'm not sure if it's my setup or the internet or what's going on. Let's see. Oh, they're changing their mic settings. Maybe that might be it. Because I think we're good here. Let me test my sounds. That's what's happening. Oh gosh.
Oh God.
I think we're good on my end. It really might, because when I was there, I didn't have enough speed. If I would try to do streams with other people, it was too slow. It would crash. But I don't know if that's the problem. The other thing in over there is sometimes the upload speeds are a little slow, and so it'll act weird. Hey Mary, how are you? Sorry guys, technical difficulties. I have to carry the show now until they come back. I was taking a week off. I was just gonna ask questions and let you guys run the show and ask your questions, because you know what, and we'll talk about KRA pins, but just even the KRA pin market has been crazy. So if you guys don't know, a KRA pin is kind of like um, it's kind of like a tax ID number, and you need it to be able to almost do anything in Kenya. And the prices that people have been charging, and I've seen people pay, is insane. So that's why we're doing this, to help you guys avoid these issues. Because if you don't know what you're doing, see, the thing is, a lot of us come to Kenya because the prices are cheaper. And so you don't mind paying more, even though it feels less to you, but you are paying more. And why would you pay more when you don't have to? Let's go. Good timing. The airport lounge over here. What's up, Icy member? What's going on? Yeah, we're supposed to have a storm or something. I haven't checked the weather, but there's a storm supposed to be happening here. And then Franklin and Abdi. I don't. It could be me. It could be I don't know. It could, because this setup I have here is complicated. So sometimes we have issues, but I don't know what's going on with the technical. And there's only 30 people in here, so we're giving it some time as well for more people to come in. I'm super excited about this though, because there's so many questions that need to be answered. And you know, my channel has evolved. Like, I want to map things out for you, or give you guys a map, so when you come, you kind of know where to go and what to do and won't get lost. And that's kind of the objective for the channel. Mark West, what's going on, man? Thank you. It's a great topic and theme. I'm hoping that we can pull this off on the technicals here. I'm really hoping so.
Let's get this party started.
I'm sure that's what you guys are thinking, you know. And you know what's funny? The soundboard is not really, I haven't designed it for this live stream, but these are some of the sounds that I've had for some of the other things of content that I've done before. Mark West is out there living his best life. I'm feeling a little bad. Actually, where's Kai at? Let me send Kai a message while we're here. You know, that's the messed up thing. I need to do better with that, keeping up with people, because I go back to the US and I just put my head down and disappear. Not really, but you know, keeping up with people is important. If you guys have legal questions, put them in the chat and I'll star them and I'll remind myself to ask those questions, because maybe you're not trying to watch in the live, but you can come back and watch it later, whatever the situation may be. Also, I'm in the market for a video editor / clipper, but a lot of guys have reached out, especially from Kenya, and they're like, they're like, I've gotten millions of views, blah, 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 but they don't have receipts. And then I asked them to do a demo, like, hey, clip this live, find me the best clips and edit it. And then it's not good. And I'm like, I could do better than that. That's not going to do it. And then they're like, I want $1,000 a month. And it's like, dude, like, get a grip on reality, okay? Michelle Logan watching football. Yeah, I know the Sunday was cool when it wasn't football season, but we might have to figure something out because the Sundays might be here. Because I'm competing with the NFL. That's tough. I don't know if that's good. But guys, yeah, I'm in the market for a clipper, but I can't pay you more than the channel makes. It doesn't make any sense. This needs to be ROI positive. I'd even do a revenue split. Like if you think you're good at social media and YouTube and all that stuff, then let's do a commission agreement or something, So if you know somebody, but guys, I do this. Like if you guys know, I do all of the editing. Everything you've ever seen has been edited by me, shot by me. And I would love to not have to do everything. But because I know how to do it, the standard is kind of high. So I get a lot of messages from individuals that, like, guys, and it's a lot of Kenyans that do this, be in my DMs talking about, oh, I can do this and that on social media. I can be a manager, blah, blah, blah. And guys, I'm not an idiot. Like I can see if you're good or not, and I can see the receipts. And if you're just like, you could send me anybody's channel with a whole bunch of followers. That don't mean that you did it. Like, show me something. Like, you got to convince me. Like, what is this? They're like, oh, I would love to do this, blah blah blah, and then they're like $800 a month. The heck? US dollars? Did you make it to the gym? James N. I did not today, but I'm going to go after this. What's up with the legal caveats in purchases? What do you mean? There are a lot of caveats. I did not make it to the gym though. Oh no. It's horrible. Oh, here they are coming back. Ah, I hear you.
Yes, can you hear us?
Hi, Ken.
Finally.
Okay, I was nervous because if I had to fix it, I was going to say, I don't know how to fix it.
No, absolutely not. So sorry we have had to change gadgets, but we're happy to be here now. I don't know if, can you see us both in the frame?
Yeah. A little dark. Oh, I got feedback from you guys a little bit. That's not too bad.
Yeah. Do you want some light?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take forever, so if you can get it, but otherwise it's fine. You guys do look like hostages a little bit.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, Ryan. I was like, people will think you're yeah. I was thinking exactly the same thing. But I promise we're not hostages. I can guarantee.
All right, I didn't force them. There's no one out the shot with a gun or anything. Okay.
but I hope this will be good. We are, as long as you can hear us, Ryan, we are good to go.
Yeah.
Whenever is a good for you.
Good to go. So just introduce yourselves, because not everyone's watched all the videos or anything. So introduce yourselves. And I'd like to know, explain foreign direct investment, who you guys are, what your business structure is, because I think it's perfect for pretty much all the listeners here. And then I'd kind of like to, maybe get into some of the philosophy and thoughts about, Kenya and Africa in general, because I know kind of share similar thoughts about that. So if you guys want to take the floor and just, introduce yourselves.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Ryan. Please feel free to stop us at any point if you want us to deal with something a bit more. But I think as by way of introduction, my name is Franklin. This is my partner at the firm, Abdissalam. We're both lawyers by profession, now practicing for close to a decade. We have a partnership where we run an investment law firm by the name FKC Legal. And FKC Legal is essentially a specialized foreign direct investment law firm in Kenya, and possibly the only law firm that specializes in FDI or foreign direct investment across East Africa. And I'll just give a brief explanation on what we do, who we serve, the structure that we use, and yet again, Brian, please feel free to intervene at any point if you want us to clarify something. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Brilliant. So, so as I mentioned, we are an investment law firm. What this means is that we technically work with investors. When we say that we are a foreign direct investment law firm, we also mean that the investors that we work with are foreigners who are investing directly in the country. And just to give an understanding of what that means, if you come to a country like Kenya, there are two ways that you could invest. The first way is to invest indirectly, which is through by purchase of shares or equity in an existing company, or alternatively, you can invest directly, which is through purchase of an apartment, purchase of property, setting up a company, say to manufacture textiles or any form of industry. So we specialize on that second aspect, which is direct investment, because essentially what we do is that we work with investors whenever they come to the country to do that kind of investment. And when you think about it, as an investor coming to the country, you're faced with, on the one hand, opportunities, but on the other hand, challenges. It's opportunities because Africa is generally a good place to invest. There is high returns of investment. Investments in Africa are also relatively cheap compared to other parts of the world. For example, an apartment in a posh place in Nairobi is not priced the same as an apartment in London,
Huh.
So there are those opportunities, but there are also challenges in the sense that how do you know what are the regular laws? How do you know what are the procedures? Are you allowed to own a property as a foreigner? What do you need to own a property? Can you be sure that the investment you're investing in is a valid one or it's a scam? So those are the possible problems, and that is exactly what we do. We solve those problems for you. So, for example, we'll walk with you through the process of how to invest, where to invest, what do you need to invest, essentially, we bridge the gap between your idea of the investment as a foreigner to the actual fulfillment of the idea. And Ryan, just to answer what you mentioned with respect to how we work, we have, I would say, 4 different practice areas or 4 different cadres of practice. The first is what I have mentioned, which is a big portfolio, which is a foreign direct investment. Now, after a while, as a foreigner, you become a local. So you have local issues or local problems. For example, if you set up a company in Kenya, the tax of that company becomes the same as those of any other domestic company in Kenya. So we then graduate you to a domestic investor, right? Because usually you would need, for example, your work permit only once. You don't need to keep on renewing your work permit. So then you become a domestic investor, and we work with you through that journey. The third thing that we do is that we create strategic partnerships as a third arm of the firm. In strategic partnerships, we introduce you to the right people. So, for example, you are in manufacture, we introduce you to the right people who would help you, for example, get a good place to put your warehouse. If you're in real estate, we introduce you to the right people to manage your properties. If you're in export, we introduce you to the right people who would guide you through the export procedures. So we literally hold your hand and introduce you to the market with strategic partnerships. And fourth, which is very close to us, we are also very big in giving back. So we do corporate social responsibility, and usually we work hand in hand with young students in school, or with the youth just coming to the job market. And we essentially enable them to start their businesses, enable them to go to school, enable them to realize their talents. So we have a very robust department in our CSR docket. So that's essentially who we are. I'm very happy to have this call today. I'm hoping that we can continue these chats and answer all the questions that you think might come. Happy. I don't know if my partner Abdi has anything to add.
Hello everyone. I suppose you're all doing well. Thanks to have you on board. My name is Abdi Aden. I am one of the partners to this prestigious law firm. My area of specialization is conveyancing, banking, and real estate law. I also specialize in corporate commercial as well. So it's good to have you on board, and please let's have you as well, and possibly we can respond to all your queries that you can have.
So guys, keep asking the questions. I'm pinning them. I'm saving them. So I'm gonna go down the list in just a second. I did want to first ask you guys, someone's coming to Kenya, they want to invest, they have whatever their plan may be. What is it like working with you guys? What's the process look like? How do they reach out? What do they do? And give us your process a little bit.
I think that's a good place to start, Ryan. So essentially, we the easiest way to reach us would be either through our email. Our email would be probably at the description of this video. It's essentially jambo@FKC Legal. And if you've come to Kenya, you know that famous song, Jambo, Jambo, Bwana, Hakuna Matata. So every time you sing that song, just think of us. Just be like jambo@FKC Legal. You can also reach us on our WhatsApp, which will also be shared in this video at any day and time. And usually would promptly respond to your queries, be it on WhatsApp or email. Now, in terms of how we engage, we have tried to create a standardized engagement path. And how this always looks like is the first step is an initial point of contact. So this would be through email or WhatsApp in many cases. And then thereafter, the second step would be an initial scoping call. In the scoping call, we would essentially get to understand what it is that you want, so we can understand if we are able to help you. So here we just try to scope what is it that you're looking for. Is it something that is within our expertise? If not, then we'd always refer you to reputable lawyers. If it is within our competence, then we would move forward with you. So essentially in the scoping call, we just get to understand exactly what it is that you want. And this is important, Ryan, because you see, sometimes when you come or when clients come, they have a rough idea of what it is they want, but it's in a very raw format, So what we do in this place is just we take that raw format and then we try and kind of like mold it into a more legal and structured thing. Third, then we make a lot of engagement. This is very important for us in the third step, because in the letter of engagement, we set out clear terms of engagement, so that at the very beginning, it is understood between the both parties what the responsibilities and obligations are. And then next, we do the work. depending on the nature of work, so timelines would differ. If we're talking immigration, that may take several weeks. If we're talking company and corporation, it may take a few days, and then we come to the closure of the assignment. So usually it's a process that repeats along these different steps.
Nice. Yeah. So Willis Wilson was asking, give us the cost too. And one thing I like about you guys is when you give your breakdown, people will see exactly what the costs are. Because in the US, you usually just pay by the hour and you just hope and pray that the lawyers don't, just bill you whatever hours. It's very like disconcerting when you hire lawyers, unless you have like a whole bunch of money, then you're not worried about it. But when you use legal services in the US, a lot of times it's like, they'll charge, if you give them a phone call, it could be a $200 15-minute phone call that's getting clocked. So for the audience, one of the reasons why we're doing this partnership is that the way they run their business is a relatable way for you to understand and provide some certainty to what you're getting. Because in my ventures in Kenya with other law firms, I'm not trying to tear anybody down, I'm just making comparison, feels a little chaotic, to be honest. So I feel like a lot of people will have a point of reference. And I like how you guys do your proposal to kind of let people know what they're and because we don't know the process, so we have no clue what's going on. So when you create a structure, it adds a lot of comfort, I guess, with setting expectations, because that's a big thing in business, is setting expectations. Like if I know what to expect, even in real estate, as an agent here, I always train my agents, you have failed if something's a surprise. So even if something goes wrong, if you have prepared them for the potential or whatever happens, then they can't really complain about it, because they knew, if you take one action, there's pluses and minuses to each action. So at least when you're advising a client, they can know what the benefits and the downsides of whatever action they choose to make, if that makes any sense.
Ran, let me just make a comment on that. We have a funny case in Kenya where there was a disagreement between a lawyer and the client at the point of how to bill,
Mm-hmm.
And so when this lawyer went to court, it's a process that we call taxation. So when they went to court for taxation, which is a process to ascertain how much they should get paid, one of the things that the lawyer said is that we will bill you. So he said, every time I thought about the clients, so thinking about the client and dreaming about the client is also billable. So, but unfortunately, we don't have that ourselves. Like you've mentioned it, Ryan, I don't know if you want us to mention exact figures. We have no problem doing that, because one thing that we have tried to do at FKC Legal is to really standardize everything,
It's important.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because you see, why this is important is at any given time we work with investors from across the world. Now we have had clients literally from all continents except Antarctica, So it's important that someone from Germany, from the US, from Mexico, from Barbados, from Australia has the same engagement path. And I remember the example that you gave, Ryan, is like Amazon, we want to achieve that kind of standardization. So to do this, we have made the engagement process streamlined and predictable, so that every client who comes on board can have an understanding on what is going to be the engagement path as a client. But also additionally, we have created a price list, which we call a menu of frequently requested service. So obviously, there's some services that are outside the scope of that menu, but these are the ones that we feel every time every client asks. So we have created that. I don't know, do you want us to give the figures, or what do you advise? If they want, we're happy.
We can. I think I can pull it up actually while we're talking about other stuff. We'll come back to it.
Yes.
But guys, just know there's a price list, especially for KRA pins. That's been a hot topic. And I don't want to delay the questions too much, but can you explain what a KRA pin is and why you need it and all that?
Yes. So KRA stands for Kenya Revenue Authority. Okay. It's what is equivalent to the US? Is it the IRA or at the IRS?
IRS, yeah, same
Annual
thing.
revenue, exactly. So it's the same thing. So it's essentially a number that you must obtain as a foreigner or an investor in Kenya that allows you to do everything. For example, once you have the number, you can own an apartment, you can own a property, you can open a bank account, you can obtain a work permit. It's literally almost as important as literally it's a key to investment. Yeah, so it's important. The good thing about it is that it is a one-time or lifetime fee. So once you obtain it, there is no renewal fees, there is no annual fees, there's no subscription fees. So once you obtain it, it is as good as long as you will live. You know, so that's essentially what a KRA PIN is. It's just a number that you must have as you commence your investment journey.
Can you give you can quote me the cost on that one just because it's very common.
Correct. So we charge to obtain the KRA PIN, we charge $180 US. Okay, so $180 would get you the KRA PIN. This would entail us doing the application for you, following up on the application with the government agency, payment of any requisite fees to obtain the number, and then ultimately delivering the number to you. Yes.
And about how long does that take to get generally?
So usually this takes a maximum of 2 days. Usually we do it in the same day. In rare occasions or circumstances, if there are any system delays, we'll get it the following day, but usually we obtain it within the same day of application.
All right, cool. So guys, keep asking your questions. I'm pinning them as they're coming in. Obviously, members get priority, and if you do a super chat, obviously it'll bump the line of the questions. And again, members get priority. So appreciate everybody asking the questions. Please keep them coming because that's the whole point of the show. So please, and you can get as detailed as you want. So put them in the chat. Let's start with Icy. He asked, what's up with legal caveats and purchases? Does that make sense? Because I don't know what that means, to be honest.
Okay, let me explain. So by asking what's up with legal caveats, so there are certain properties which have caveats. So caveat in law is defined like an encumbrance. It's like an obstruction. So some sort of a hindrance. You cannot acquire clean title. You know, so there are certain instances where properties have been labeled as caveats. So for you to have a property under a caveat, there's a procedure on how to register a caveat. For instance, I'll give you a typical example. A property that was jointly acquired between a couple, and one of them would want to dispose it off, and the other couple or the other member believes that his or her interests are not well catered for through this disposition, then they can rush and register a caveat on the title deed. So whoever wishes to acquire or rather purchase that property in future cannot get a clean title unless that caveat is lifted or unless that caveat is fully extinguished from the records. So it has to be cleared. So it's called a caveat. The law nowadays also calls it a caution. So those two words are used in.
Oh no, you're breaking up. Oh no. I hope it comes back. Oh, you're frozen. I don't know if you can hear me. Ouch. All right, they'll come back. So that's interesting because the language is different, but you know, in US title law, that sounds to be like a cloud on the title. I don't know what the legal reference to it would be, but like And I was going to ask Abdi this, but maybe when he comes back, my question would be, if you purchase with a mortgage, that's basically what a mortgage does. Is it collateral? I can't say the word. Collateral. Oh my goodness. Collateralizes the house to the loan, and then it clouds the title. So if there's basically they have a claim to the property. Basically, I mean, it gets quite a bit more deep than that, but this is why, like, it's in public records in the US, for example. So when you have a mortgage, and if you own a house, you'll probably be getting these like advertisements to refinance, and you're like, oh, how do they know my loan amount and all that stuff? Because that stuff is filed in public records against your property. So that's how they're able to see that stuff. We need some hold music. Oh. Yeah,
Hold
sorry
on.
guys, that the connection can be an issue. Icy said a new development has asked me to pay my reserve fee before I acquire a KRA. Yeah, you don't need the KRA PIN until you're about to close on the property, or when you're transferring the sectional title, which usually the sectional title isn't even made until the property is completed. So that's, to me, that's not weird, but I probably should wait for them to come back. But I want to keep the information going while we're waiting on them, collateral damage on my brain right now. Very sorry. Very sorry. And I have a lot of questions in here. I see Martin's good question about citizenship, Class G, the time frame, there's an interesting conversation. Somebody was talking about professionals should charge Americans at US rates. That's an interesting comment. I don't know how I feel about that, because people want to overcharge. Oh, excuse me, above market rates. Doesn't feel nice when people try to overcharge you, but I understand. But pricing is about what someone's willing to pay and what someone's willing to accept. So and that's how people do get overcharged, is because they are willing to pay more. But are you getting more is my question. Here they come. Hello. Sorry, guys. Don't say anything incriminating. You're back on here.
Ryan, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Again, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
I think the bandwidth sometimes gets a bit too heavy.
Yeah.
So I have seen some interesting questions, though.
Okay, yeah, let's just keep it going. The caveat. Oh, wait, Abdi, I wanted to follow up on the caveats question, and I wanted to know, if you purchase with a mortgage, do they file a caveat? Is that how that works, or am I
Yes,
on the right track? Okay.
that is true. So what usually happens is that is not a caveat. It's called a charge.
Oh, different words.
So that's a different thing. It's called a charge. So what usually happens is the moment the bank finances you, they will register a charge against the title deed, so that charge can only be discharged upon you completing the loan, or rather the mortgage. So you have to complete the repaying off your loan, and then that is the time when now the bank will have to discharge the title, and thereafter now you can as well acquire another financing from another bank, or you can even dispose of the entire property if you so wish.
Ah, interesting. Okay. Icy member. Shout out to you again. Any tips for negotiating developer delay terms?
Okay, so the tips for negotiating developer delay terms, Usually this is encapsulated in the sales agreement, which in most cases, what I usually advise our clients is that we need to have a clause whereby if the project is supposed to be completed in 24 months and it goes beyond that, then ideally that developer should be responsible for rental incomes that ideally should have been generated had that property been completed. So there should be some rate of return. So the ROI immediately kicks in, and that property would be evaluated at typical rental value at that marketplace. So you'll be entitled to be paid monthly rental income by that developer. So that clause is usually what we include in. They usually sometimes allow, some try not to. They rely on long stop clause, which gives them some leeway of 6 months to 12 months to do completion process, because usually they provide justification on the grounds that the permits, or rather the approvals, were quite late, and they try to bring out an argument that it falls under what we would call force majeure clauses which they believe are beyond their powers or limits. But in most cases, we've pushed down through their throats, and and they have allowed that. So it just shows some level of transparency and accountability.
So when someone hires you guys to help them in a real estate purchase, this is some of the stuff that you would help them with the language in there and negotiating these terms.
Definitely, yes. So our skills and our knowledge will be displayed fully at the time when we're having the documentation process. That is from the letter of offer all the way to reviewing and amending the sales agreement, because the sales agreement is the pivotal document in any transaction. So if you lose there, that means you have lost that transaction. So, but if you win in the sales agreement and you hold the developer to account, then of course, yes, your project and everything else will be secured.
So two things. Do you add that language specifically into the agreement
Yes.
about rental income, rental
Yes.
income?
Absolutely, yes. We introduce a clause whereby we introduce a clause as a comment, and we expect them to bring it in as an addendum. So the clause is quite simple. In the case there's a delay which is not defined as a force majeure clause, or rather does not fall under the purview of force majeure, then they should take accountability and start paying rent the moment the projected completion period elapses.
So a lot of people have been sending me their purchase contracts, and what I notice in there, and this is kind of before I really started working with you guys, is that in the completion date or the description of the completion date, it will say a date, but it also says or after we're able to acquire the we would call it in the US occupancy certificate. I forget the language that is used there.
Same thing. So they say they give you a projected period, for instance, it's December of 2026, or 2 weeks after acquiring the certificate of occupation, thereabout. So they usually, yes.
My interpretation of that, and the issue with looking at law is that there's case law behind these things and interpretations, right? So when I see that, though, when I read it plainly, it almost indefinitely allows them to be delayed because it makes it dependent upon acquisition of the government approval at the end. So if you don't complete your project, my interpretation of that is they're in compliance of the contract because they didn't get the occupancy agreement. Is that how you would interpret that language? I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Okay, so let me explain this. It's quite simple. So with respect to the completion period, so completion literally means that they have done the 24 months. Usually from experience and practice, they usually take 24 months, some take 30 months, and then they usually give themselves another 6 months long stop period just to do the final finishes and touches. So in most cases, we work with that. Now, with respect to acquiring the certificate of occupation, what does that mean? It means that the moment the project is completed, the county, or rather the local authorities representatives would inspect if that particular project fits for human habitation. So it has to pass through certain standards. So after now complying with everything else, that is after now they will be granted the certificate of occupation. But ideally, the project should be complete within that requisite period that we had spoken about. So if it's 24 months, it should be between 24 months to 30 months. So the building should be complete, everything should be done. All they're waiting for is that certificate to be granted, and then people now can start moving in.
Gotcha. Next question is from Ha, member. Shout out to you. What happens if the developer delays completion or goes insolvent? What protections exist? I know you talked about it a little bit, but.
So what happens is that if the developer delays completion, these recourse are usually provided for in the sales agreement. So you might have, one of the recourse could be you give them a 21-day period notice, whereby if they are not able to remedy the delay, or rather resume service, then you can rescind. So you have a remedy, which is rescission. You can decide to rescind the contract, and you will be then entitled to all your dues, all payments that you have done towards that particular acquisition of that apartment or project. That is number one.
Well, can I stop you real quick? So in practice, though, for example, like if they go insolvent,
yes,
they don't complete, how are they going to give you your money back, even if they're supposed to?
Okay, so for instance, if they go insolvent, what usually happens sometimes is then there's an insolvency procedure under company and liquidation processes. So if a company goes insolvent, then of course now what we'll be doing is we will now liquidate its assets. So we assume if they had acquired the property, or rather bought the land, meaning that land has value. So it will go through the correct insolvency procedure. It will be liquidated. A liquidator will be appointed. And then priorities will be given to secured creditors, and the list goes on. And then they'll make sure that whatever that they can get hold of with respect to the assets owned by that company is distributed equally and under the insolvency law and practice in this country.
So as an end buyer, what realistically would that look like? The time frame, the amount that they might get back, because they're probably not getting the whole thing back, I'm assuming.
Well, usually if the moment a company goes insolvent, it's honestly bad news. It's bad news. Unless now they decide to use that property, the project itself, to secure financing and use it as collateral with the bank. Now, the bank can come in and bail them out and help in financing that completion of the project. But if they don't have, or rather if the property itself was a joint venture, so a joint venture and buying a land itself and starting off construction is different. So if it's a joint venture, then the project valuation ideally, maybe if it was going for 2 billion shillings, which is around $20 million, or more, I think more than that. So if it was going for such an amount, then there would be a cost-benefit analysis that any lending institution would do, whether they would want to come in and see if they can salvage the situation. But of course, for the end buyer, at the end of the day, if the interest is specced on the project, and the project's interest is specced on the property and the developer, so they're all tied at the hip. So if it decides to go down, you go down with it. And to address that, what we usually advise people to do is we usually conduct due diligence for them, because we don't want you to invest with a developer who is a first-timer, who doesn't have the requisite capacity to undertake such mega projects. So our job at FKC is to protect you from end to end. We start with you the journey of now conducting due diligence. We investigate that developer if he or she has a proven track record of completing projects in the past on time. whether they had initially acquired lands in those projects they had completed, or whether it was just a joint venture setup. We also find out for you those companies that they had been using, who are the main financiers. Are they also liquid enough to have enough capital or resources to undertake such mega projects, or are they relying on off-plan sales? So our work is to do all this screening and advise you whether the project is viable and whether you should proceed or not.
Yeah, that's what I gather from that, and from my experience so far has been the best protection is just to buy with reputable developers beyond anything else, is because it, like you said, you'll go down with the ship, you know, regardless of your purchase contract. But it is good to have a good purchase contract, like you said. So makes sense. All right. I see. Do developers ever use escrow? That's something that I think is important.
Yes, they do.
Really?
They usually do escrow in selected cases, not every now and then.
Hmm.
Especially, for instance, you'd see that if a client, for instance, is buying a number of projects, so they would want to prove to this client that they are able to demonstrate that they will do good work or clean work. So there are selected cases which they would use escrow. For instance, I'll speak to about the Chinese developers. So what they usually do is they have an arrangement with the banks. So let's assume they are being financed by a bank. 30% of the project is being financed by the bank. So what they will do is they will not let the bank have that. They will not actually acquire the entire money from the bank and put it in their account to finance the project. Rather, what they will do is they will do checks, and they will clear their invoices and any materials that ideally should have been supplied to them. The suppliers will now directly be paid by the bank, so that the bank can also see some level of transparency. And then the Chinese will not have access to that fund, but the fund is paid on their behalf by the bank.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Is there anything, so when you're making payments on these projects, sending money to the developer is a bit terrifying all the time because you deal with exchange rate issues. The manner in which you wire money matters. Also, you know, you're scared that they're going to play crazy, like they didn't get it when they did receive it. There's a lot of fears with sending large amount of money. Every time I wire a big amount of money, it's concerning. From my perspective, I always thought it be pretty attractive for there to be some sort of escrow mediary law firm, something like that, because in the US, the title company or a law firm receives all the funds and then distributes it as the contract is executed. Is there possibilities for such a thing? Does that exist? How does that work?
Yes, actually, Ryan, I'm happy that you mentioned that. We've had instances where clients have actually expressed to us dissatisfaction and concern. For example, I think just 2 days ago, I spoke with a client from the US, and he was just telling me how he loses a lot of money in foreign exchange, you know, because he was purchasing properties way more than $100,000. But let's imagine it's $100,000. The problem he has is that, first, obviously, he has the fear that I'm sending this money to this company, you know. There are live cases where people have been scammed online, so there's obviously that fear. But beyond that fear, there is also the concern that he's sending the money from his US bank. The money is going to be received in a Kenyan bank, in a Kenyan shillings account. The problem he has is that once the money lands in the Kenyan account, he has no say with respect to the conversion rate to be applied to the money. Okay? And you know, and everyone knows that bank rates, especially over the counter, are the worst rates ever, especially because you don't get to negotiate. So, as an example, if the exchange rate globally is $1 to 1 shillings, $1 is 129, banks would issue 124 or 125.
That's happened to me.
Yes. So you see, if you're losing 5 shillings for every dollar and you have $100,000, that essentially means you're losing $500,000. You know, it's crazy. Sorry, 500,000 shillings. That's
Yeah.
almost, at the end of the day, if you're transferring $100,000, losing $3,000, $4,000. You see, so Ryan, this is a real concern. We have had that concern as late as 2 days ago on Friday. How we have navigated that is 2 ways. We've been able to solve that problem for clients in 2 ways. First, we have advised clients that it is possible for them to open a bank account in their name even before they obtain a work permit and even before they proceed with the transaction. And we're in fact presently doing that for another American client who has his money in the US in a savings or an investment fund. You know? So it's quite difficult to transfer the money to Kenya. He's in Kenya at the moment, but he can only withdraw maybe like 300 per day, you know. He'll have to withdraw $300 for 1,000 days to be able to pay all, you know, the whole purchase price. So one solution is to get a bank account for the investor. The bank account usually will be operated by you, yourself, and so you can easily transfer the money from a US account, which is in dollars, and the account in Kenya would also set it up for you to be a US dollar account. So you'd get both a Kenya shillings account, a US dollar account. If you're European, you'd also get a euro account. If you're from England, you'd get a British pound account. You know, those are the 4 main accounts. So once you transfer the money to your US dollar account, you can then negotiate with the bank and tell them, look, I have $100,000 here. Please give me a good rate, or I will transfer the money to another bank. And usually they will give you a very favorable rate because then you can negotiate. So that's one option. The second option, which is what you've mentioned, escrow, we have had also instances where clients, they don't really want to have the hassle of having a bank account. And so usually we have an escrow account for clients. And what would happen is that it's a client account. The funds would be deposited in that account. It would be purely escrow. And then they would direct us on how they want the money to be disbursed. I'll give you an example of something that you're doing now. Incidentally, also for Americans, they bought some property and they got an interior designer to furnish the house, right? So you see, they're in the US, they're getting a company in Kenya to do the interior design. It's very tricky for them. They can't really trust an interior designer. You know, it's
Right.
at least lawyers are trustworthy because we are professionals. I should also mention that we have a professional indemnity cover, which is an insurance cover for clients, which is worth close to $1 million. So in the event of any, let's imagine, misconduct on our part, the client would be covered to as high as almost $1 million. You know, so imagine even if you're doing a project of $500,000, you'd still get covered under our professional indemnity. And usually we'd share this indemnity with the clients if they wanted to in the course of business. So in this example, the second example of the escrow, the money is deposited to our account. When the developer, when the interior designer has reached certain milestones, we are advised by the client to release 10%, release 30%. So it creates comfort on both parts. The designer is also very happy because they know that they will get paid for their work. So they're not scared that I'll do work and not get paid because the person lives in the US. So those are the 2 possible ways that we have solved that problem.
And just to add on, Ryan, so you see, for off-plan projects, as rightly said, it's a bit different because in most cases you realize the developers actually need the cash flow. So for the project to continue and so for them to meet the deadline of 24 months to 30 months, they need that constant cash flow. And that's why if you are buying cash without a payment plan, they tend to give you a favorable discount because they will use that cash for purpose of the construction. If it's a payment plan, I usually advise people to get it through a payment plan just to, you know, mitigate the risks involved, and you can have a favorable payment plan of 24 months or thereabout. You can pay on a monthly basis. And literally, it's like it's a long-term plan of it's a sort of a leasing thing, but you end up owning it. So it's a favorable plan as opposed to a one-time cash buyout. So escrow account for them would not be the best option because escrow literally means holding the money on to for a period of time based on conditions or certain certain standards or certain criteria to be met by the developer that warrants such amount to be disbursed. So they would not want to engage in such a scenario, because if they do so, then there might be some significant delay to the project. And as a result of that, some buyers, potential buyers, or rather the actual buyers, might shy away and decide to rescind the contract and demand for their money because the time has not been. And that's why in most agreements they indicate time is of essence, because time plays a critical role because of the ROI that they always try to sell out when you are trying to acquire those projects. Because if your ROI is good, it means that you are likely, to get a good return of this investments.
Right.
Back to you.
Okay, that's good stuff. That sending money, I'm telling you, is scary every time. I don't like it. What I do, I use Chase because not all the banks do international wire transfers, and then I send US dollars to the developer's US dollar account. And so I have found the best success on the conversion with that because I'm getting the 129 generally, or 128.9, very close. I've sent money converted in shillings from Chase to the shilling account of the developer, and that's where I got like 124, and that was a little painful. And I was actually blaming the developer, and then they were like, "Oh, well, they only sent this much," and I was like, "Dang, Chase got me. It wasn't even the Kenyan bank conversion." So before you wire money, talk to some people, because the way that you do it can make a huge difference, like Franklin said, because of the amount that you're sending. So there's that. Okay, Martin, this is a good question. What is the expected time frame, total cost, and likelihood of success for obtaining Kenyan citizenship through the Class G investor permit, assuming full compliance over 7 years?
So let's say that, just say that again. What is expected? What?
What's the time frame, total cost, and likelihood of success for Class G investor permit?
Let me answer that in reverse. So in terms of likelihood, as long as you've been here consistently, well, you don't have to be here physically, but as long as you've had residence in Kenya consistently for a period of 7 years and above, and this period must not be broken. So there must not be a gap of, say, 2 years and then there was 1 year that you're missing, and then, it must be 7 years continually. Then you definitely...
Wait, what does that mean?
Yes. So in one instance, you could be here for 4 years, go back to the US. So you have a work permit for 2 years, it expires, you renew it for another 2 years, it expires, and then you go back to the US for 1 year.
Oh, you need to maintain it for 7.
Yes. So it must be continuous. Okay.
Okay.
You cannot break 4, then go to the US for 2 years and then come back and say, no, let me continue. So it must be continuous for a period of 7 years.
Can you be back and forth? I'm sorry to keep interrupting.
Yes. But no. Yeah, it's important, and I think that's an important point, because residency doesn't mean presence in Kenya. Okay. So Ryan, for example, you could get a work permit in Kenya, but you could decide, you just want to spend your winters here in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no requirement for you to be here full time, So you can literally have a work permit. As long as you have the work permit, you could literally go back to the US and just in 2 years spend 3 months in Kenya. So the law will look at, did you have residency? It will not look at whether you are in Kenya, to look at the status.
So your passport stamps don't matter. It's the permit itself.
Yes, it's a permit, yeah. Because usually, and now we're actually doing a few of those applications. Usually when we make the application, the supporting document is not your passport. In fact, maybe your passport will have expired in that intervening period, right?
Yeah.
So the supporting documents that you would use are your subsequent permits over the years.
Ah.
Yes. So as long as you've met that criteria, you've been here for at least 7 years without breaking it, then you automatically qualify for either citizenship or permanent residence. Let me give a difference or a distinction between the two. Permanent residence and citizenship almost give you the same rights. The only difference is that as a citizen, you have two advantages that a permanent resident doesn't have. First, I don't know if this is an advantage, but as a citizen, you're allowed to vote. Okay.
Okay.
So then, if you want to vote me as your president, please. Yeah, you become the civic duty, all right. So that is the first advantage of having citizenship. Second, also, which I think is important, and I'm sure it will come up somewhere in the course of the conversation.
Yes.
Then you also have a right to own land freehold. And I know that is a big question, Ryan. So I can see it in your face.
I'm surprised they haven't come in yet.
I'm sure it will come. It will come. So those are the two advantages of citizenship. Permanent residency allows you to be in Kenya for the rest of your life. So you don't have to keep on applying for residency every other time. It is called permanent residency because the residencies that you get, the 2 years residency, are temporary residencies. Okay? So it is permanent as opposed to the temporary residence. So if you get a Class G permit for 2 years, that's a temporary residence. Once you have it for 7 years at least, then it is you qualify for permanent residency. You don't have a right or privilege to vote, and also you do not have the right or privilege to own land in freehold. But in terms of prices, citizenship, now of course the law keeps on changing. Presently, the government issuance fees for citizenship is 1 million Kenyan shillings. That is about, is that $7,000?
Yeah, about 7,000. Yeah, seven.
Yeah, thereabout, yeah. The permanent residency fees at the moment is 750,000 Kenyan shillings. Is that about $5,000 or thereabout? Yeah. So some almost $2,000 difference, but this is just issuance fees, different from legal fees and facilitation fees. So, but once you meet this qualification, guaranteed you will get that. You'll get the citizenship. And I think I've mentioned the aspect of cost. Okay. Now, coming to the timelines and processes.
Real quick with the cost, because this question comes up. Do you need that money liquid, or for someone like me, I've purchased property that exceeds the amount that you need?
Yes.
Does that count?
Good. Actually, I will answer your question, Ryan, with the question on the screen now. So you see, if you make an investment in Kenya, it doesn't per se add to the case of getting citizenship or permanent residency. Okay, because these are two different residencies. If you're making an investment in Kenya, then you qualify for what is known as Class G, or investor's permit. Okay. Now, investor's permit is one among maybe 10 different permits that you can get. If, for example, Ryan, you're a rich man, you want to retire, would apply for you a Class K permit, which is for retirees, right? If you want to be employed, if you want to be my employee, Ryan, I would apply for you a Class D permit, which is an employment permit. So there are different classes. Okay. But then there's Class C. So there are different kinds of permits. The permit
do they do different things?
Yes. So that, for example, if you have a Class K permit, which is for retirees, you're not allowed to run a business. Okay. If you have a Class G permit, you are allowed to run a business, but you're not allowed to hold employment. If you have a Class D, you're allowed to hold employment, but not to run a business. So you see, so there are different entitlements. So this is different.
They add to your citizenship the 7 years?
Exactly, yes. So for the 7 years, it doesn't matter which permit you had.
Okay.
If you had a digital nomads permit, if you had a Class G permit, if you had a Class D, even if you kept on changing along the way. Say, for example, you started with Class K and then you're like, no, let me invest, then transform to Class G, and then decided to be employed Class D. As long as there was consistent residency for a period of at least 7 years, then you qualify. So think of these residencies as building blocks to getting the permanent residency or the citizenship. Okay. So for example, Ryan, you could be here in a Class G permit. After 7 years, you qualify for citizenship. Another person could be here under Class K, which is a retirees permit. After 7 years, they would also qualify for citizenship. So they're different. Did you want to talk, because Abdi wants to mention something, but before I let him, you wanted me to talk about the cost as well?
Time frame, cost, likelihood of success. Yeah.
Likelihood answered, cost answered. Cost I've mentioned that. Yes, Ryan, to answer your question, whether you need to have this money liquid, yes, for this government insurance fees, you will not need it before or in the process of making the application. But once the application is complete, then you would have to pay it before issuance. So they would tell you, Ryan, your application is approved. Please pay the 1 million Kenyan shillings. Okay.
So do they have to stay in a bank account?
No, not really. So
Oh.
if so, we make the application for you, Ryan. The moment we get an approval that your application has been successful, then you are told the application is successful. Then make the payment. You know, if
You have to pay the 100,000?
No, the 1 million shillings.
Oh, 1 million. Okay.
1 million, yeah, 1 million. Yes.
What do you do with the 100,000?
So the 100,000
US dollars, by the way. So there's the fee, and then there's the amount that you need to invest.
So Ryan, let me just add something and possibly to address that as well. You had asked the question as to whether $100,000 should be in liquid cash or it should be some money, and you had provided a scenario whereby you had acquired a property yourself, which is valued above $100,000, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So usually, what they usually look at is not only liquid cash. So if the property itself, after valuation, and for you to provide that evidence, you would have to provide the sales agreement and a letter from the developer indicating that it is true indeed you have fully settled your payments, and the property which you had purchased, which is now an investment that is coming into the country, is way above the $100,000, which is the benchmark set by the government. So it doesn't have to be cash. But in the event that you don't have a property or you have not purchased, that's something else. So usually what I actually advise my clients in most cases is I try to kill two birds with one stone. So what happens in this scenario is quite straightforward. So instead of you coming in and try to first buy, apartments straight on, and then later on try to pursue this other route, I usually advise my clients to start the process of now trying to acquire the property. If you have that money, please leave it in the account for a period of maybe a month. A month is not too much. Then let us work on the immigration, possibly by printing out the bank statement to indicate to the government that as an investor, you have invested, or rather, you have $100,000, which is the required threshold in your account. And that account, remember, should be a Kenyan account. So how do you do that? Very simple. So once you are supposed to start with the work permit plus G, one of the first processes is to incorporate a company. We incorporate for you a Kenyan company, and it's through that Kenyan company that we also end up opening for you a bank statement and then a bank account. After that bank account, then you can simply now channel your money through that bank account, and then that is what exactly the immigration now will use to verify whether your investment is indeed genuine. So they will liaise with the bank that you have provided just to confirm that indeed that the funds are actually in the account which you have provided. And then once the immigration verification process is done, then the next thing now is just to withdraw the money and then proceed to purchase it with your property. So you see, you've already complied with the immigration aspect of it. At the same time, you've also ended up buying your own house.
I want to emphasize for the audience, this is probably exactly where you want to really have a good law firm, because I want to stress that the importance of the order of operations that you just explained is really important. That will streamline things, right? Because if you do things out of order, then it's going to make things more complicated. Because that was a very specific strategy.
Ryan, let me just add one thing, just on the same thing. This is arising from something that you're doing for a client presently. So it's a group of clients made up of Americans and Englishmen. So they're putting up an investment. It's above $100,000. So for the time being, they are applying for work permit for one individual. Okay. What we have done, I don't know if this has come up because I can't see the comments, but essentially this is to answer the question: can you get more than one permit, an investor's permit, on the same portfolio of investment? Okay. And I know that is also something that people might consider. So what we have done for them is that we have incorporated the company for them. Okay. We've then had the company certified as an investor. Okay. With the Kenyan Investment Authority. Once this certification is granted, which application we do for the company, under the same investment portfolio, the company would qualify for up to 3 permits. Okay. With the same investment portfolio. So let's imagine they're investing 150,000. So you can have 3 of the partners obtain work permits. Now, so at the moment you're applying for only one person. The question that they asked us is, so if you want to apply for a permit for another partner in 6 months, do we need to leave the money in the bank? We told them no. For the time being, we'll apply because they have not yet started the business with the money in the bank. This first person will get the work permit. They will obviously use the money to buy furniture because they're setting up a restaurant across the UN in Nairobi. So they will obviously use the money to buy furniture, to employ people and whatnot. So obviously the money will reduce. Operational cost, exactly. The question is, will they still be able to apply for a work permit for another person later? And the answer is yes.
Okay.
And what we would do is that we demonstrate that yes, in the bank we have $50,000, but the company has had investments worth $100,000. So just to buttress what Abdi said, the money need not be in liquid cash. Okay, so if that money is already in an investment, for example, in furniture, in payment of rent, in buying of an apartment, it would still qualify for a permit.
Gotcha. Here's a question to build off of it from SC. How does immigration even verify the funds, and how long does it take? Or do you need brown envelopes with cash to speed up the process?
So just read that again, so I know how to answer.
So how does immigration even verify the funds, and how long does it take? Or do you need to influence people with some dollars?
It's very simple. So the moment you make the application, you fill the form. So it's Form 26. You apply through the relevant process. And then the moment you lodge your application, then of course the migration process officially starts. And then at the time of now, where they do the vetting and they check your background, then they start ticking the boxes. If you have met the 100,000, investments requirement, and then that's if it's in liquid form, if it's in cash, and if it's the money in the bank. Of course, they would require you to indicate your bank account, and then it's upon them to do usual, because the banks have a working relationship with immigration. Okay.
So they can give your info.
Yes, so that is it. Yeah, so they usually have an officer in each and every bank that is attached to working closely with the immigration department with respect to processing immigration permits and documentations as and when required. So yes, they would call the bank, and then of course the bank will then print out your statements and confirm to them that indeed this applicant or this banker, or rather our customer, has these funds in their account as of now. But the beauty part of all that is that the moment they verify and everything is in order, and then the bank will notify you that we had spoken to the immigration. Thereafter, you can clear your account. Actually, you can, if you decide, you can withdraw the entire amount and leave no penny in the account, and do whatever you want to do with your money, because the whole essence was just to prove that you are coming in as an investor and you're bringing money to the country?
Ryan, let me just add two more things on what Abdi has said. First thing that you always also try to do, in an attempt to try and make them not be very invasive to your bank account, at the point of making the application for the work permit, we usually supply as supporting documents or evidence your certified bank statements if you have the money in liquid form in a bank in Kenya. Okay, if it is an apartment, usually we would supply the sale agreement and that kind of thing. We have instances also where you have the money in your account in the US, okay, or in another country. Usually we would request you to get certified bank statements from your bank in the US. We would also request you to have them notarized by a notary public in the US, okay? And then once you send that to us, as long as they have been notarized by a notary public, then they would be taken as conclusive proof to, to prove that you actually have the money.
Gotcha. All right, Darnell, $2 super chat. This is a lot of game. I appreciate this, Ryan. Yes, and thanks FKC for giving us the time. And then he said, "My 50,000's ready. This is better than marrying fast."
Oh God.
So appreciate that. Super chats always appreciated, especially on this one where we're given a lot of information that is quite valuable, and I promise you we'll save people money, because I'm telling you guys, a lot of you guys are in the DMs telling me how much you spent on things, and it's not good. So let's stay on the right path so you're not crashing out. I'm crashing out for you guys and finding the right people to work with. Freedom asks, so does FKC work exclusively with foreign investors?
To be honest, foreign investors make up more than 90% of our portfolio. This is just because of how we have structured the firm. You remember, like I mentioned, we have structured the firm in a way that is focused purely on matters to do with foreign direct investment. Okay, although we have instances also where we also work with diaspora investors. These are essentially, Kenyans who live in the US or live, in Europe, and they want to invest back at home. So we also consider those foreigners. They're essentially not foreigners, but we consider them as foreigners. There are a few instances also where we work with domestic companies. Like I mentioned before, for example, if you come to us at an initial stage, you're a foreigner, but after a few months, you're literally just a local. So in those kind of cases, we'd also work with you as a domestic investor, but usually our expertise would rotate around foreign investors because of the expertise and because of the kind of care that we want to give foreigners in that area.
We also understand in depth what exactly the FDI element is. So what we try to do is, as a foreigner, we try to hold your hand from start to end. So through that now we create and we try to solve potential problems that you might encounter while you are trying to invest in the country. The typical lawyer out there would not be able to solve most of the things, or rather even identify them, as a matter of fact. But what we try to do is we try to identify for you these potential pitfalls that you might encounter. We break it down for you and then give you the solutions to all those challenges that you might, face along the way.
I want to emphasize that, because what I've seen in the market is that when everyone's going to tell you they can help you, but are they equipped to do so? And are they even aware of the special issues that foreigners may face, right? So if you're used to dealing with the local market, there are some different issues that can come into play. And I've noticed that I feel like some of the lawyers I've spoken to are knowledgeable, but there are things that we run into that they may not have been aware of, or not don't have a lot of experience with, and then it's not serving you as well. So I think even in the US, when you're hiring lawyers, you'll find that you want someone that specializes in this particular activity, because yes, they're legally able to practice whatever you may ask them to do. They don't know all the nuances and are up to date on all of the changes, because the law changes, and then the execution of the law changes. And so, like if you're getting divorced in the US, you want someone that's good at divorce, not someone that's doing criminal defense, because they're not going to know the nuances. They're not going to know the judges, all that kind of stuff. So, just trying to build a bridge on, hiring lawyers in general, I guess.
Ryan, let me make one comment just as we close on this question. You see, at least speaking for myself, initially trained, I spent almost my first 5 years as a lawyer, practicing and as a dispute lawyer. Okay, so I spent many years dealing with disputes. Okay, in fact, my master's in law from the UK is in fact in international dispute resolution, particularly investors and state disputes. Okay, so my specialization, even as we went into FDI, my core specialization is in the dispute that would arise between a foreigner and an investor, and that's exactly what we do FDI. Now you see, so the training that I have is disputes. The advantage that gives the client is that whenever we have an engagement, my mind thinks of things in a very critical way. I look at things from the worst case possible scenario. So I'm looking, Ryan is investing here. What is the worst case? Because I've seen so many disputes over the years, right? So I'm able to protect you from that dispute happening. So what I'm trying to say with respect to that answer is that, yes, just like you've mentioned, Ryan, we are legally capable to do all different kinds of practices. I could also do criminal practice today, but we just choose to specialize purely on FDI because we believe that there are specific concerns for foreigners that we just, and there's obviously so much work to deal with foreigners, So we're happy to just specialize on that. At the same time, though, if you have any questions with respect to domestic issues, or you want to speak to a domestic lawyer, usually just reach out to us on our email, and we'll be very happy to introduce you to a reputable lawyer who would deal with your matter. So if it's a family issue, we'd introduce you to a partner or a lawyer that we know who does that job well. If it is a dispute in Kenya, we'd also introduce you to the right people. So don't shy away from reaching out to us, but we'll always be honest with you that this we can't do and this we can do.
Yeah, because everyone's a real estate agent out there. Everybody is, there's a lot of lawyers. There's plenty of people that'll offer to help you. You got to have the discretion to choose the right people, because I'm seeing a lot of funny stuff in the market. All right, let's continue, because I got a bunch of questions for me. Hopefully we can even get to them. I see Levy Reed's question. That's a good one. Object Shy Co has another good question. Martin has a question. Chief Niga. So I'm getting to all of them. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to go in order to make sure we cover everything, but we'll keep going. But I'm saving the questions, so don't think that I'm missing them. We're getting very detailed answers. So, each question is going to take a little bit of time. So we have member again. In the UK, we have buy-to-let mortgages, interest-only repayment. Do banks offer this in Kenya? If so, are they common? I don't know anything about mortgages over there. So
just read again.
They said in the UK, we have buy-to-let mortgages, interest-only repayment. Do banks offer this in Kenya? And are they
buy to let?
Yeah. You spend time in the UK? Because I don't. Let me add a disclaimer here, real quick, guys. Just in general, because I see there's a lot of we all use different language, and so we have to figure out the language to connect different things that we talk about, right? Because, for example, the first question, caveats. We have a similar thing in the US, but it's different. and the words are different. So always understand when you're international that the words are different, you know. So buy to, like, we don't use let in the US, we would use rent to own or something like that. So any thoughts on I guess interest only repayments for banks, buy to let mortgages? I don't know.
Yeah. So in Kenya, we also, I mean, we have a few instances where we use let, but generally the most common word is rent. So
Okay, yeah, same.
yeah. So what we have in Kenya is rent to own or rent to buy. So it's the other way around. It's essentially where you go into a house and you're paying rent of the property, but that rent is actually going to a mortgage ownership of the property. Okay. Do banks offer this kind of services? Yes, not all banks, but some banks do. If you're interested in that kind of a package, when I talked about the third thing that we do in the firm, which is strategic partnerships, we would introduce you to a bank that would give you that kind of solution. Because there are a few banks that have been licensed to do that. There is one bank that we work very closely with, and we'll be very happy to introduce you to that bank. And you'd pay, for example, if you want to live there for the next 10 years, you'd pay rent to them, and that rent would offset the ownership of. So at the end of the 10 years, you essentially have owned the property. In Kenya, we wouldn't have interest-only payment. You would essentially have to pay both interest and the principal. I'm not clear what what the person meant by interest only, but I know that in Kenya you essentially have to pay both principal and interest. But yeah, essentially it's possible to have that kind of arrangement.
Yeah, so we in the US we have some creative loan products that might be interest only, but it's very not common. Usually you pay principal and interest together. Not sure. So how, if you're still here, if you want to expound upon the question, you can. Although, you know, again, this is probably like a finance person or a bank person in Kenya that's going to be better equipped to answer that particular question. And, you know, it actually sparked my mind. I was like, dang, we need to um, find somebody that knows that, because I have no idea about financing at all in Kenya. And as a foreigner, how realistic can I get loans in from a Kenyan bank? I have no idea. So we'll get them. I'll add that to the list of things to look into. Chief Negus, I would like them to talk about REITs. I don't have specific questions, general information as an investment avenue. Before they get into that, I'm kind of dabbling into that. I'll make a video, but you know, again, I'm crashing out so you guys don't have to. So I'd like to get more information and see how it goes for me on the investment side. But I guess, do you guys have any thoughts on real estate investment trusts, or maybe just in generally? Are you guys like, how well versed are you on the, you know, because do you guys know Avocat? Do you know like these different investment firms? I don't know. What are your thoughts on all that kind of stuff?
Let me put it this way. So, like you mentioned, REITs is real estate investment trusts. We have that in Kenya. It works. Although I need to give a caveat that it works, we have it in the law, but at the moment I think we only have maybe 2 or 3 only REITs in Kenya. We have very few, and these are usually very big mega projects. One example that you can look up to is a big real estate investment called Tattoo City. You know, you can look at it. There are a few of those kind of arrangements. I have not yet seen individuals, investing or doing REITs per se, because of the regulation that is required. There's a lot of compliance needs. There is a regulation and regulator by the bank. So I would say that yes, we've seen that, although the market hasn't really taken it up. It's honestly one of those big things that people talk about in real estate, almost like ESGs and whatnot. But we haven't yet seen a big uptick in the market by people. They've just literally been taken up by very big corporates. What we have seen, however, is trusts where individuals own trusts, and also foreigners can also own trusts, and then those trusts would own the investment. So that is what we have seen, but also that has its challenges. Now, though, there is some laws that are being amended in Parliament to make the law a bit more friendly and to streamline some things. I know that there is some conversations on that law presently in Parliament in Kenya. And I know I've had a good number of clients who have come to us asking us questions about this. Some clients have preferred to wait until next year to observe if the law is going to be passed and then see if they can then register. But just to answer the question, yeah, we have rates in Kenya, but they are usually by very big corporates.
So Ryan, let me just briefly add on what Frank said. With respect to rates, as you are aware, they are actually governed by the Capital Markets Authority. So that's the governing body. And so they have come up with a number of regulations, collective investment schemes, which are meant to access a larger public, needs. So usually we have two types of rates: the income rates. Now these are rates which apply to regular, or I would say, the usual standard sort of investments like apartments or rentals, which are very secure and stable. And then we have the development rates. Now this is where someone would want to acquire a stake or rather invest in development projects and construction. The challenge with this one is the risk is higher, but the reward is big. So the government did some sort of capping. So initially it used to be 10 million, it used to be 5 million for you to get into the rates of the development aspect of it. But nowadays it's 100,000 Kenyan shilling, which is less than $1,000, just to have you access that opportunity of the development rates. Yeah, so it's a new phenomena that is taking shape, and it's so far has turned out to be quite success, but it needs some sort of public outreach that people are not fully well versed with, and that's what the government is trying to do as a form of now also generating revenue through that.
Yeah, I've seen this other real estate influencer / agent in Kenya talk about them a little bit, and so it's been interesting. The whole investment space seems less like less information, less saturated, so that it's an interesting topic for sure. Chief Negus, who asked the question, said thanks for the response on REITs. There was a lot of hype about it when it was introduced a few years back, but the real estate industry has been quiet about it. So I was wondering. Thanks. Okay, cool. Appreciate the question. Martin, how is the title transfer process working for company-owned property in Kenya? And can your firm assist with creating and verifying a company or the SASA account to manage ownership and registrations?
Okay, I'll take that. So it's one question, but has 100 sub questions.
Yes.
So how is the title transfer process working for company-owned property?
Yes.
So you see, a company, it's a legal entity, and it's not a natural person; it's a juristic person. So a company can own properties. Yes. There are many methods in which a company can acquire properties. I remember last time there was a question of such similar question in the past, where someone had asked, "Can I acquire property using a freehold? Can I acquire a freehold property using a Kenyan company?" And we gave him an answer to that question. So on the issue of the title transfer process, yes, a transfer will be effected in the normal procedure, as if it is actually acquired by a natural person. So if, let's say, company A acquires property in Nairobi and maybe, let's say, Westlands area, ideally the company would acquire such a property as a legal entity on its own, in as much as, of course, it's a legal entity, but then, of course, they are the shareholders, the directors who make the decision and pass the board resolutions, but they are acquiring it as a corporate entity. So companies can own property, transfer. They're entitled to acquiring clean title deeds in as far as transfer is concerned. in Kenya, and can your firm assist with creating and verifying? Yes, we can help you actually set up your Abdissalam ID. And there's a procedure on actually how to go about it for foreigners. It's not the typical straightforward process like for a typical Kenyan citizen. So there's a procedure that involves raising a ticket, and then you will be assigned. Yes, then you will be assigned an officer now, the land registry, who will be in touch with you, who would require your documents to be uploaded, would verify you. So that ticket is actually what you'll be using to access your Abdissalam account for purposes of the transfer and acquiring the sectional titles, among other services which are provided in the platform. So there's a specific procedure on how foreigners can actually acquire Abdissalam, because it's ideally it's meant for two people, either citizen. It can also be meant citizen as a natural person. It can also be accessed by a company, which is a juristic person, so long as it's a Kenyan company. It can also be accessed by a foreigner who has a work permit. So you need to have an alien card. So those three people are automatically, available in the system. But for a foreigner who is buying or rather investing in the country and doesn't meet the criteria of those three, persons, then of course there's a specialized way on how to go about it. That one, yes, our law firm will assist you on that. And can we verify a company's Abdissalam? Yes, we can, to manage ownership and registration. Yes, so those are the services that we can help you with. Please get in touch with us. Possibly we can shed more light on, because it's a case-to-case basis. I will not call it a definitive answer, because each company would want to manage its property in a certain way, and how to go about it. Ideally, we would also define the procedures we would need to take going forward.
Okay. Kathayahan. Hey guys, please tell us how you help Ryan get a title for his property and PIN, even though he doesn't have a resident status in Kenya. So you guys don't have to talk about me specifically, because like I've been saying, I've already been like involved in all this stuff before we guys even started talking, although I still need to get my sectional titles. But I guess you want to talk about it in general, about that process.
Should you answer your own question, or we should help?
Well, where I'm at now, one of the properties I'm buying with a friend of mine, the first property, the Lavington one, that's rented out and everything. And it's a nightmare because I have an entity that I use now, but we have to put both of our names on the sectional title for my friend's comfort level, of course, which I agree. So I probably might have you guys just do it for her, because it's a pain, like getting the KRA PIN and the Abdissalam. And then the thing with the Abdissalam, if you do it yourself, well, you need a Kenyan line. There's all these like fiddly steps that you have to do to be able to do it, and it makes sense to just have someone do it. So
yeah, sure. And you see,
the thing is, I'm doing it on the behalf of someone else, so it takes like I gotta like explain to her how it all works, and so it's a bit of a process.
Absolutely. It's not a walk in the park. How the system was structured in such a way that there are certain benefits, or rather certain government services, which should ideally only be accessed by Kenyan citizens or foreigners with resident status in the country. So
but it's weird because they don't prohibit us from doing it. It's just that there's not a normal pathway.
Yeah, there wasn't. I don't know whoever did it, but perhaps it could be deliberate. By the way, the regulations don't provide for it. Let's put it that way, because ideally, what is implemented on the ground is what is covered, or rather captured in regulations by the law.
Which is
But it also helps. it also helps because it also enables the government to know who's who. So when they make the system too open, they're not able to access who are coming into the country to buy. So it's a form of a screening process, actually, because you realize some people would come to the country and they have with them proceeds of illicit funds, crimes through money laundering. So it's also a way in which the government gets to access who is who and try to do a bit of background check.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's a funny thing because people do need to understand, like, even when people visit, they will find that the level of security when you go to the mall and such is quite high, because there's some risk with that kind of stuff. So it does make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So that's possibly one of the measures which they're trying to have it in place.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's good when there's like frictions or issues that you have to deal with. Understanding maybe a little bit of the reason why makes you maybe deal with it a little bit easier, rather than like, why is it like this? Why is there not a checkbox for visitors? But I could see why. Chief Negus, another question: what legal recompense is there for developers and buyers of units when a building suffers structural damage in the event of a natural disaster such as earthquake? I don't think Kenya has earthquakes, but it's still a good question, like, depending on.
Okay, so I'll answer that in twofold. Number one, your dictionary is the sales agreement. Back to the sales agreement, because that's the legal document that governs any relationship between you as a buyer and the developer. So that's where the relationship starts. Now, the sales agreement ideally should capture two things. Now, in the course...
Using the restroom real quick. I'll be right back, but go ahead, continue.
So in the course of the construction, they would indicate that there are certain aspects of the force majeure clauses where, if triggered, the contract will be declared void. It cannot be enforced by either party. But if we remove the issue of earthquake now, because the earthquake now falls under the force majeure clause. But speaking to the structural damages with respect to this project, the sales agreement should capture a clause which is now what we call defect liability clause. So defect liability clause is quite simple. What it indicates is, in the event now the project is complete, you move in, then any structural damage would be addressed by the developer for a period of 6 months from the date of the occupation. So the moment you move in, 6 months down the line, it should be addressed by that particular developer. But after now the 6 months elapsed, the developer now will not be liable to address any structural damage that would arise. So what now would happen is, you as the buyer and the rest of the buyers in that particular project, you would have formed what we call a corporation or a management company. So it's the management company which takes up that role of ensuring that this particular structural damage is addressed. So the management company or the corporation, what will it do? It will do a very simple thing. When it's formed and shares are allotted to each unit owner, that corporation company would now have to acquire an insurance policy. It will have to acquire an insurance policy which now will cater for potential risks, to cover for potential risks such as earthquakes in the near future. So let me just recap for the benefit of everyone. It's very simple. One, if it's an earthquake, it is addressed in what we call the force majeure clause in the sales agreement. So if there's a force, if it's triggered, then what that means is that agreement now becomes void. It cannot be enforced by either party. It's typical what happened during the coronavirus pandemic. It was actually declared, in most contracts, it was declared force majeure. It's beyond human control. And contracts could not be enforced, so they became unenforceable because of the situation. But if it's a structural damage that is that can be redressed. It's a minor structural damage with respect to the project. It's very simple. In the sales agreement, there should be a clause, and in many instances, there are clauses which speak to what we call defect liability clause. So the defect liability clause is very simple and straightforward. What it provides for is that the developer would be required to address any defects that this particular project would have for the next 6 months from the date of occupation. So for the next 6 months, any defects with respect to the project, if it's plumbing issue, wiring issue, electrical issues, the developer would come in and fix it for free, so you don't have to pay for anything. After the 6 months, of course, you will be now having what you call the corporation. So the corporation, or rather what you call the management company, is that legal entity which now all unit owners are members of it. So each unit owner will be a member of that company. So one unit owner gets one share of the company. So if you own two units, you get 2 shares. So you, as a now then for the collectively now the management company would now be required to take out an insurance policy to cover and protect the project going forward. So there should be an insurance policy that is taken out by the management company.
Yeah. So once you get your sectional title and you get part of the management company, that would be basically for people in the US would be essentially like a homeowners association. And it's a very similar concept, right? So if you're in an apartment building in the US that has a HOA and the roof gets damaged, hopefully there's enough money from the HOA fees to cover it. If not, you guys are going to have to come together. The HOA management is going to have to raise money or do something to be able to get it repaired, essentially.
Absolutely.
It works in a very similar manner from my understanding.
The analogy is the same.
Yeah. So it's funny because there's a lot of legal stuff in Kenya that's very relatable to the laws in the US. And I guess that's because it's foundational on British common law, I guess, is kind of where that stuff comes from.
Yeah, Kenya is the British protectorate, so most of the laws here are common law. So we use the English legal system.
Oh man, so I'm sorry guys, I'm skipping a little ahead because this comment just came in and I had a similar question. So DCB said, I'm planning on marrying my Kenyan fiance in a few months. Would I have to leave Kenya during that time? And how long is the processing time? Will I also be able to purchase properties during this process? And I guess marriage and citizenship and residency and work permit, all of those things, how does marriage impact that? Because it's 7 years for the other permits. Is there a difference when you're married? Is there a different residency? Like what's going on?
So perhaps just to understand, he said that I'm planning on marrying my Kenyan fiance in a few months, okay? First and foremost, congratulations for that.
I like this one. I like that one.
Would I have to leave Kenya during that time? Not necessarily. And how long is the processing time? Processing time with respect to what? Like acquiring the marriage certificate or what?
Actually, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, actually, not Abdi, but Ryan. Let me deal with that because so I'm not married, but ironically, the registrar of marriage.
City boy!
And, I'm not advertising myself. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. But the registrar of marriages or the government, the person in government who is in charge of registering all marriages, it's a personal friend of mine.
Oh.
She's my friend because I'm not married. She's like, married. Can you get married? So our friendship, I think the day I get married, our friendship will come to an end. But essentially, the registrar of marriage is a good friend of mine. So congratulations for getting married to your fiancé in Kenya. On a more personal level, we can certainly help you. Obviously, this is not investment, But given our links, we'll be very happy to introduce you to my friend who is a registrar of marriages. That would help speed up the process for you. We've had in the past friends or even clients who have been here, and so usually the process is that you make the application, and then a notice is issued saying that Ryan wants to marry his Kenyan fiancée, for example, and the notice must run for at least 21 days. This is important so that if someone else is in love with Ryan, they must come out and say, no, Ryan has already married me, so so please don't get married. Yeah. So this is a 21-day period for any member of the public to object. Okay. Thereafter,
Legally.
Yes.
That happens.
Yes, many times.
Or you only see it in movies?
Yeah.
What are the grounds to object in 21 days? I'm sorry.
Because it's an ex who has not moved on from you, Ryan,
It's not me.
or maybe you promise her that you'll marry her, or maybe you married her. Las Vegas at some night, some crazy night. So it actually happens. Legally also, you're allowed to only, as long as you're having a civil marriage in Kenya, you're allowed only one marriage. Okay? So
Really?
Yeah, so you can't marry more than one person.
I thought you could.
No, Abdi can, my partner Abdi can, because he is Muslim. So the Muslim religious law allows him to marry a good number of women.
So there's a carve out in the Kenyan law to allow Muslims to do it.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. You have to
Or
very happy.
sounds expensive.
Yeah, exactly. But as long as you're doing a Christian marriage or you're doing a civil marriage, you can only marry one wife.
But that is recognized by the law, that the denomination, whether it's civil, Christian, or Muslim, that's in the law.
Yes, it is. So actually, there are three forms of marriages: Islamic, Christian, and civil. Okay, and so it is up to you to choose whichever you want. So I could go and say that if I want to marry multiple women, I could go and say I want to marry under the Islamic marriage. So it is really up to me to decide, right? But also, obviously, the spouse must also agree. And so you must choose. Now, if you marry under the Christian or the civil marriage, you can only marry one person. And so therefore, if you're already married to someone else, the 21 days is because the notice is publicly displayed. It's supposed to let anyone who has an objection come and raise the objection before the 21 days lapses. If you get married, this is obviously off topic, but if you get married in a different kind of thing that is different from this, the marriage will not be recognized in Kenya. But to a good friend here, the problem usually comes with once the 21 days has lapsed, to get a date to go before the register of marriages. And this is a trick. It's usually very tricky because possibly you're here for maybe 2 months or 1 month, so you don't have a long time to wait. So how we can help you, I'll be very happy to introduce you to my good friend and then help you secure a date for your amazing nuptials.
So if I may possibly add, as you rightly said, yes, it's provided for in the law. And by the way, getting married to an already married person, you're committing an offense. It's called bigamy. Yes. So it's a criminal offense. It's called bigamy, and it's punishable.
Someone posted that in the comments. Yeah.
Yes, it's punishable under the law. So he proceeds to ask, will I also be able to purchase properties during the process? Yes. Absolutely. There's no hindrance to buying property. You can buy property as a single man, as a married man, through the process. Property acquisition does not have any restriction whatsoever.
And later, in a couple of years, if you want to become a Kenyan citizen by dint of marriage, then we'd also help with that process.
Yeah, so let me ask for a friend. Okay, I have this guy who does like a YouTube channel about Kenya. He's bought some property. He really loves staying there. He hasn't done any residency permits yet, and he wonders, getting married, how that would affect maybe more of the business side with the residency citizenship avenues. What options open up if he were to get married in Kenya to a Kenyan lady, as far as the 7 years, like, all that stuff. Like, what are the ramifications of that for a foreigner marrying a Kenyan lady, is in reference to more of the business aspects of things and residency and immigration?
So let me possibly respond to that. So what usually happens sometimes is that people they have those fears that I might lose my property or investments to this person because they have the age over me, having been a citizen in their own country. So any property, recently there was a Supreme Court case ruling which the court had made a determination from the initial position, which was, initially it was that any property that you acquire as a couple would be rendered as matrimonial property. But right now, if you acquire a property and then get married, then that property is safe. It is not up for division because it's very simple. You have married this woman and that she has not contributed to the acquisition of that property. So to be on the safe side, it's very simple. You first put your investments in order, get your documents in place, have your company registered. Then we can help you get it through your. We can help you get the sectional title through your company, and then once you have all this documentation, the next course of action now would be, and by doing so, actually, you also in the country legally you have the status because you have a work permit, which is through an investor permit, which is Class G or any sort of other permit. And then the beautiful part of it is that once you acquire all this, then you can possibly get married to the Kenyan fiancé of your choice. And then in case there's a dispute or anything, you don't have to worry about. I'll give you a practical case, honestly, that I've myself been dealing with as late as today. So I don't want to mention names, but there is a client who is an Australian, okay? So there's a Kenyan lady, and then they had acquired a property together. Okay. So when they were buying this property, they were dating. They were together. They were workmates. So what happened was, the funds which were used to acquire this property was actually acquired. It was actually credit which the man's parents who live in Australia secured those funds.
Okay.
So ideally, the money that would be generated from this acquisition of this property should be used to finance that loan which the parents had acquired. So what happened was they completed the payment, everything was in order. Now the project is complete. We have a new tenant, people have moved in. Now, since this guy is in Australia and the lady's in Kenya, the lady and her mom teamed up. So what they did was they rented out, or rather leased out, the apartment to a tenant, and the tenant would be paying them rent. So the man now, whose parents were used to acquire the financing and who's also a partner to this woman, has no absolutely claim over this property. So he has not been receiving any rental income for the last 5 months. So he got in touch with me yesterday, and we have been in talks until today, as late as even 5 p.m. local time. And we are trying to salvage the situation. The sectional title is not yet out. So what they have been doing is they have been trying to repay the loan slowly. But he told me ever since they had started to break up with his girlfriend or fiancé, she has not been contributing her part of the contribution for the last 3-4 months. So now he has to pay out, the loan on his own without her help. Yet she's also earning rental income from the property alongside her mom. Now, it's quite funny. So now what he was suggesting that we do, or rather go about it, is that we give that tenant an eviction notice, we evict them, and then put the property for sale. And then once it's sold out, then we can now have the loan repaid, and then the balance will be split among amongst themselves. And so that was his suggestion, because he would rather have it vacant or sold it out. He's not earning any coin from it. At the same time, he also has to pay money from his pocket to set the loan. So those fears are real. They're absolutely real. But please, before you take any steps of such a nature, so that you don't end up making mistakes that are costly, get in touch with us. We will design for you a proper plan, because we are Kenyans and we know how Kenyans think. So help us protect you.
Ryan, let me add just 2 remarks on top of what Abdi has mentioned. Number one, just building up on what he said, there is a place for prenup agreements in Kenya.
I was about to ask.
Yes, exactly. It's okay to fall in love, but at the same time, it's good to just talk to your lawyers. Because we were not motivated by love. Like I mentioned, particularly for me, my initial training is in dispute, so I look at everything from a lens of worst case scenario, yes, there is a place for prenuptials. Would, as an investor, in your life as an investor, help you come up with the correct prenuptials, so that we secure your investment and your legacy. This is important in case anything happens. You're a foreigner in Kenya, you see a local person would easily and simply take advantage of you. But also, as a foreigner, sometimes you're scared because you don't know the law,
Yeah.
We know the law. We know, like, for example, you have a client who put, they bought an apartment, they put it in a company. So he paid the whole amount in purchase of the apartment. But then he put it in a company. And because he loved the girlfriend quite a lot, he gave the girlfriend, I think, 30% shareholding. And then he took 70% out of love, So later on, when there was a breakup, we just easily demonstrated contribution, So he said, fine, we agree that the property is in the name of the company, but contribution, and the court agreed with us and said, yes, this foreigner fully owns the property, okay? So yes,
wow.
there is definitely a place for prenups. But I also just want to mention a question that you also mentioned, Ryan, with respect to, for example, if you had a Kenyan spouse, how that looks with respect to the immigration aspect is that you would still have to wait for 7 years to obtain citizenship in Kenya. But the advantage that this gives you is that you don't have to apply for a work permit or for any kind of permit during those 7 years. Essentially, what we would do for you is that we'd apply for you a dependence pass. Okay?
Oh.
And a dependence pass is as valid as long as your marriage is valid. And this is usually quite affordable. It's super well compared to the other forms of residences. It's super affordable.
Oh, cheaper.
Yeah. I think it would cost you maybe. We'll do it for you maybe all inclusive, maybe $500 everything for 2 years. Something like that. So,
are you able to work? Like, it's like having a work permit as well?
Yes. I mean, so with it, you can have a bank account, you can possibly have work, because you're married to a Kenyan, right? So obviously then you're allowed to work if you're married to a Kenyan,
Really?
So, yeah, and usually would just also, if you have it, would have it endorsed on your passport as part of what we charge. So would have it on your passport, so you wouldn't have to apply for ETAs. So if you're coming to Kenya, you just simply come because you have a dependence pass. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, and we've also done that for a good number of clients. So usually with that dependence pass, you wait after the lapse of 7 years. If you want to be a Kenyan citizen, then you apply for citizenship. So I would say that is a big advantage. The advantage is not really time, but I mean, you see, if you're applying for 4 work permits, which is 8 years, you're spending at least maybe 6 times 4. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But you see, in this case, if you have a dependence person, it solves so much of your problems.
But you could get some new problems. You got to be careful.
I was gonna say that. I didn't want to say it. I'm happy to say it. So not me. Please don't quote me. But yes.
but prenuptial agreements can supersede the standard law in the case of divorce or disputes.
Yes.
Basically. Okay.
Yes.
Similar.
Usually, we would make for you the prenup agreement, Again, because we're lawyers, we would make sure that it aligns with the legal provision and what is required under the law. In some cases, if you want us to register the document for you, we'd also register it for you. And at the same time, also, if in the course of this, we haven't had this experience, but if you imagine you're a foreigner, you're married to a Kenyan, you have a child, there could also be issues along the way. We also just would help you as a foreigner come up with parental responsibility agreements and those kind of things, you know. So essentially, what we do at FKC is that we walk with you through the whole journey, the good and the bad, happy and the sad.
Well, get your stuff together before you do stuff, and you won't be as sad.
Yeah.
You just, you know, maybe you lose a lady, but you don't lose all your stuff.
Or lose a lady or a man, you know, it could be.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. Somebody's arguing that the dependent pass doesn't count as a work permit. I don't know.
I mean, you see, so this is what the dependence pass allows you to have. You have residence in Kenya, you have access to a bank account, you can come to Kenya at any time. It essentially gives you can have a KRA PIN with it, you know. So essentially, I mean, unless you want to get a very, very specialized form of work permit, like for manufacture and whatnot, so maybe in that case you would use it. But on a day-to-day general living, from what you've seen, it would ideally work with you. And
well, let me ask, if I want to work for your law firm, then I would need a work permit?
Absolutely.
Yes, exactly.
Class D employment.
Because you're an employee, yes.
On top, so that's where the marriage thing doesn't help, or the dependent pass.
Right, let me explain. Just to add on what Frank had said. So the dependent pass, from the word dependent, usually is assigned to spouses, in this case, females,
Right.
wives. Kenya is just a patriarchal society, unfortunately.
Right.
So the assumption is that the man is the provider. So it's usually assigned to the wife and the offsprings. Now, those are the children. So what now happens is, as a man who is an investor and you come to this country, you get any type of work permit, be it Class G, which is investor permit, Class D, which is employment, Class C, which is professionals. You know, you get maybe Class K if you are, a retiree. Class R is for East African citizens. So these permits, what then the benefits that they come with is, you can then automatically apply for a dependent pass for your spouse and children. And if your children go to school, they will also be entitled to get what we call a student pass if they are under 18. You know, so a student pass typically works like a dependent pass. It's valid for 2 years as well. So that's the essence of now what the dependent pass is. True, you can't. It's an immigration status. You are in the country legally, yes, but then it has limitations and restrictions with respect to work. You can't work, you can't do business with it. But then the general services that a normal person or who is in the country legally can access, opening a bank account, KRA PIN, running your operations here, there, you can do that.
Would you get an ID, alien ID?
Yes, you will get yes. It's called KDP, Kenyan Dependent Pass. KDP, yes.
Okay. Because for example, I have a vehicle and I'm not able to transfer the logbook to a visitor, right? So to like a visitor, like I don't have an alien ID, right? So I can't. There's nowhere to send it to.
Very hard, yeah. So the visitor needs to have an immigration status, be it a dependent pass, be it a work permit. They should be having some status.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good to be cleared up there. The marriage stuff is interesting. Let's see. Sorry to derail. Levy's been waiting since 1:45. This has been like 20-30 minutes ago. Okay. How hard or easy is it for foreign investors to get business loans to scale a business? This might be a finance question, but we'll see what you guys think about it.
So we have had cases where foreigners have obtained loans and facilities in Kenya. The question of whether easy or hard is really relative, because we look at it from the financials or from the bank's perspective. So the examples that we have done with for clients are usually cases where the clients have purchased apartments, for example. The apartments have rental income, and the rental income is directed to the bank. So just any bank in Kenya, okay? So as long as you can demonstrate that there has been consistent, inflow of cash into the bank account, usually they would say for at least 6 months. So they need to say there is actually some evidence that money is being paid to that account, that it is rental income, so some form of steady income for at least 6 months. The longer the better, obviously, it makes your case much easier. Then you'd qualify on the face value for a loan or a facility. But then once you go to apply for the facility, they would still want to confirm, do you own the property? Is it in your name or in your company's name? If it is in your company's name, then you take it, you take the loan in the name of the company. And then, like Abdi had mentioned previously, these banks would charge this property as collateral, so that if you default, then they would, they would just sell the property and recover their money. So I think Abdi will agree with me, to the extent that they are secured in terms of the collateral, they would easily give the loan, right? Yes.
And just to add on, maybe Levy needs to understand that the interest rate is a bit higher for foreigners.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of risk factor.
Yeah. I do want to say, I think if you're thinking about coming to Kenya or anywhere else, I'd recommend you bringing your own capital. If you're thinking about that, you're going to need financing. I feel like financing is easier in the US, so it kind of doesn't make sense. Like, I think the advantage is bringing your own capital into the country rather than trying to borrow. Especially because what's the government bond rate in Kenya, like 13% or something? So that's like a baseline. That's the treasury bill rate.
Yes, set by the Central Bank of Kenya, the CBK.
Meanwhile, the US is like 1% or lower right now, I believe. So, I mean, the baseline of any lending is just going to be like really challenging. But as I've been looking into, if you're purchasing the bond, like you could be on the other side of that, on the investor side. The returns are quite attractive looking, although I'm not super familiarized with all that stuff. Actually, Martino asked, and this might be in line with that conversation, do foreigners have access to SACCO, savings and credit cooperative financing? I don't know if that's similar, but
Yes. I wanted to say something, but I'm forgetting. Yeah, I know what I want. So I'm going to answer this question, but just to close on the previous question and discussion, we have not yet seen any investor or any client from the US who has had to take facilities in Kenya, but we have seen that from our other foreign clients, for example, in countries like Ethiopia or some certain other African countries. Okay, so maybe not with respect to the US, because the US has a lower rate of borrowing money, but in some other countries where capital is difficult to obtain, then we've had those people come to Kenya. Okay, so that's just to mention that. I think, yeah, most guys in this chat obviously would be from the US, so I know that wouldn't be an issue. But in case there's someone who will ever watch this video from,
they do.
Certainly. Now then, to answer the question, yes. So I don't know if you have this in the US, Ryan. Do you have SACCOs, like what is being asked here? Do you know what they are?
The language, I don't know. There's probably maybe something similar, but I don't know what that means exactly.
Okay, so let me start by explaining what that is. Essentially, we call them SACCOs, savings and credit societies. So essentially, it is a mechanism where people from different kinds of walks of life come together. They set up a society. So it's not really a company, but it's something legally binding. It's like a society, and then they deposit money into that society, and then allow members of the society to borrow. So let's imagine it's the three of us, Ryan. Say every month we're putting money there. Then, Ryan, if you want to borrow some money, you can borrow at an agreed interest rate. Okay, so that's essentially what SACCOs are, and they're very big in Kenya. In fact, they are really, I think every year they do billions of dollars in terms of savings, because it's very, very popular in Kenya. now. So
I
so
think a
that's
lot of foreigners do that in the US privately, right? Like communities, like even like Somali community and stuff like that. They create these things where they all put money into and then they can borrow the money to do business. Is a really cool concept, actually. That makes sense.
actually, yeah. Actually, it works. It's exactly the kind of thing. It works in Kenya because say, when you borrow money from those kind of institutions, they are not regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya in terms of the interest that they give. Okay, so they are very attractive. For example, most of these organizations would give an interest of 12%. Banks, on the other hand, would give interest as high as 17%, depending on who you are. They're also very good for local people, because if you want to take a loan and you don't have a collateral, you could easily just go to other members and they can guarantee you. So, for example, I go to run, say, please, I'm taking a loan of 100,000, guarantee me 50,000, Abdi guarantee me something else. So you easily take it's a good starter pack for life, because then you can take loans without having to have collateral. Now, is it open to foreigners? Really, I would have to check that for you. We've honestly not had an instance where foreigners had, maybe Abdi has had. But what I can say is available for investors, which we have done in the past, is money market funds. So these are also short-term saving plans where you would invest your money and then they would give back an interest at the end of the month. This is usually credited monthly and then compounded. So, for example, at the end of the month, you get your money, and that money will be taken into account in the following month. So that's available for investors. I don't know. Do you know if?
So yes, if for foreigners, yes, you can access SACCO. By the way, so long as you have legal status in the country and you also have assets which they can verify with. So they will definitely do their own due diligence on you. So I think his question was because you can be a foreigner but be in the country legally, and you've been in the country for a number of years. Yes, you'll be entitled to that, and they will definitely let you in. But if you are a tourist, that's where the problem is. So definitely, there's a risk issue there. So they will not let you, be part of them and be able to later on access those benefits that come with that. But if you are a foreigner and you're in the country legally and you're running a legit business which has assets and generates income, yes, you can be part of that.
Okay, interesting. You know what? I think they're very not known in the US because we have very crazy, hard to follow compliance with anything with lending. But I know small communities, they exist maybe informally even, because it's definitely a concept that I've heard of. Interesting. Random question. Like, okay, what about like equity brokerage and such, right? Like I want to buy Safaricom stock. Like, is that something that people can do? How do you get into that?
Yes, yeah. Actually, you can purchase even as a foreigner. This is now the opposite of foreign direct investment. It's in international investment called foreign portfolio investment. Okay, so it is definitely allowed. All you would need is a KRA PIN and a passport. So if you have a KRA PIN, like we mentioned, the KRA PIN is like a key to so many things. You could potentially purchase shares of Safaricom or any company in Kenya, and get paid your dividends in the US.
You can open a custodial account, or I don't know what they would be called in there.
So
as a visitor.
What you're talking about is slightly different. The custodial account is an account that you open with the Central Bank of Kenya. It's called a CDS. It's a CDS account. Usually, this is an account that you would need if you're investing in government bonds. Okay.
I see. Okay.
Like you know what you mentioned, but if you're just simply purchasing from a company like Safaricom or Equity or the public listed companies, you really don't need to have the custodial account. The custodial account is custodial because the custodian is the Central Bank of Kenya, which is similar to the Federal Bank in the US. Okay.
Right.
There's Federal Reserve Bank.
Because I was looking at the return. I'm like, this is kind of good for, just a straight government.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. I'm glad you guys were able to answer some of the finance stuff because I know that's not exactly the discipline you're in, but that's what the legal branches to everything. Object Shy Co. Hi Ryan. Which type of visa will I need to stay in Kenya for 3 to 6 months on a yearly basis? We have already purchased properties in Kenya and we would like to eventually get Kenyan residency. Some of this was answered, but if there's other parts of this question that you want to.
I see. So I'm making a presumption here that they have purchased the property. They don't want to move into Kenya yet, but they want to just frequently visit and then ultimately maybe move into Kenya permanently.
Yeah.
I hope that is the situation. If that is the situation, we've also had a good number of clients who have done this, so it is quite doable. Usually, would advise you, depending on the country that you come from. So certain countries have an allowance on how long they can stay in Kenya. Many countries usually have 3 months, which is 90 days. Some countries would have 30 days. East African countries would usually have 6 months. So what we would advise in that situation is, because if you don't want to be here for a long time, you just want to be here for a short period, would advise you to apply for either an ETA or a visitor's visa or a visitor's pass that is valid for 3 months, and then thereafter it can be renewed for another 3 months. Okay, I think that would be the cheapest option. The other option is that we would also apply for you a possibility of a multiple entry visa in Kenya, and this, depending on the nationalities, I've seen them granted sometime up to 5 years. So this would allow you.
That's what I have. I have a 5-year ETA. That's all I got right now.
Actually, it's usually, I've seen it's very easy for Americans to obtain it. So usually you would come into the country whenever you want, So that would be what do you call it? It's like halfway house. MJV.
Yeah, I'm in the halfway house right now.
Exactly. Yeah. So you'd use it's really economical for you in the interim, and then one time if you want then to move in permanently, then you can apply and convert to permanent residency, and then we'll obviously be very happy to help you with that.
Just to add on that,
go ahead.
Yeah, just to add on that, maybe to shed more light on the multiple journey visa. By the way, it's only entitled to American citizens, and there's a reason behind this. This is because I don't know if you remember when President Obama visited Kenya. So there's an element of reciprocity which took place. So Americans would be entitled to a 5-year multiple journey visa, the MJV, and Kenyans who want to move to the United States would be entitled to what we call the B1, B2 visa, which is valid for 5 years. Now, these visas work similar. So at any given point in time when you travel and you are given, so when you come in, you'll be given a visa, you'll not be given a visa, but ideally you should be leaving the country within 3 to 6 months, okay? So the multiple journey visa doesn't mean you stay continuous, no. If within 90 days to 180 days you have to exit, you can leave tonight and come back after a day or two. And then now again, you'll be entitled to stay within 90 days or 180 days. When you're coming in, sorry?
We have that? The U.S. has that with Kenya?
Yes. Courtesy of Mr. Obama.
I'm surprised we still have it because it's a lot of friction right now.
It was never scrapped.
Wait, so do you apply? So if I have a Kenyan friend,
yes,
that wants to come to the U.S.,
yes,
they can apply for that. Do you guys do that?
Yes, B1, B2. Yes, so it's meant for professions, businesses. So what usually happens is they have two things that the embassy usually checks is the person who's sending the invite. In this case, Ryan, they'll have to check your bank account, whether you're financially stable, you have a stable job to actually sustain this guy's visit. And then secondly, they also check the credibility of the person, now the Kenyan person who's traveling to the US, whether they have a strong bank account, just to prove that he doesn't go to LA or Las Vegas and start lying on the streets. So they need to also check on him just to prove that this person is a person who does genuine business, has a credible income, a good bank account to support himself during his stay in the U.S. Yes, so the embassy does grant that. As a matter of fact, my elder sister, who's a medical doctor, has it. So anytime she wants to come to the U.S., she just goes and books the flight and leaves. She doesn't have to go to the embassy.
Oh.
Yeah. So she can attend your wedding tomorrow. Yeah.
That's interesting. You know, it's funny because us in the U.S., we're very not well versed generally on our own immigration. Like we have no idea. I had no idea how hard the process was. I'm just learning all about that, you know. So
Let's just hope Trump doesn't hear about it.
I was thinking that. I was like, that's gonna be gone soon. I don't know. They're getting rid of everything. Yikes. All right, next question, and I got Dr. Muhammad's question as well. Martin has another one. DCB. There's like 5 more questions in here, and let me know what your guys' timing is. But I'm still, and I might have some more personal or questions for a friend actually coming up. Object Shyco said, "How does apartment resale process work for foreigners? Which fees are involved in a sale process?"
How does apartment resale
If they
process?
want to, so I guess he bought a property. What if he wants to sell it? What's that look like as a visitor? He doesn't have any residency or anything.
So if it's a resale process, they usually typically treat it like a normal sales transaction, which is now buying and selling. So of course the stamp duty would apply. The person who's selling it, of course, he'll be making profit, so they will also have to pay what we call CGT tax. That is the capital gain tax at a rate of 15%, by the way. Stamp duty starts at 4% of the property value.
Is the capital gain? The gain is on the gain though. From
yes.
Okay.
So for instance, you bought it at 9 million and you decided to sell it at 10 million. So that's 1 million profit. So that they will usually charge 15% of the 1 million.
Okay.
Yeah, and then of course the stamp duty now, which is payable by, the buyer of the
buyer pays it's 4% stamp duty, correct?
4% of the property value. Yes.
Okay, but
So
that's normally charged towards the buyer.
Yes. That's what.
Is that negotiable?
No,
Okay.
it's 2% outside municipalities. If it's in the rural agricultural land, it's 2%. But if it's within urban areas, it's 4%. It's fixed. Yeah. However, there are instances where stamp duty is exempted. For instance, I'll give you an example. Let's say if both the stamp duty and what I'll call capital gain tax will be exempted. For instance, let's say Ryan owns an apartment A, and then Ryan forms a company, which is Ryan Company Limited. But Ryan would like to transfer apartment A to Ryan Company Limited. So it's one and the same person. So you'll both be exempted from stamp duty and capital gain tax.
Okay, so you don't get taxed on a transfer.
You don't get it. But for instance, if Ryan Company Limited has another shareholder, even if he or she has 1%, then you're doomed.
Okay.
So it will be treated differently. So they would think, okay, it's not only him now transferring to himself, but then there's another foreign element involved. So there's a perception of profit generation, which ideally should be taxed. So the process is very simple. It's just to start drawing doing your own inspection, checking, if the property has any. If you do a physical visit to the site, or rather to the apartment, and So there are 2 ways of reselling it if it's an apartment. So it can be a situation whereby it's incomplete. So you buy it as an off-plan, but before it's completed, you transfer it again to a third party. So in that case, what will happen is they will just change the sales agreement from your name to this new buyer, and the new buyer pays you out because the developer already has your money in.
Do they ever allow assignment of the contract?
Yes. So what? Of course, you'll have to. There's an assignment clause in the contract, where they don't allow you to assign it to, but it's usually assignable at the consent and notification of the developer. So the developer has no problem with that.
Let me explain assignment to someone. So if you're buying an off-plan thing, it's not done yet, the apartment. You have a contract. An assignment would be that you replace you with someone else. So you're assigning the contract from me, Ryan, to use someone else. And so you could charge them an assignment fee or something like that to essentially sell the contract.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but you see, in most cases, they don't allow that, as you've seen it. So what they usually do is it's only allowed at the consent of the developer or the seller, that's the vendor who's now doing the project. That is if it's an off-plan project. But if it's a complete project and the apartment is ready and we have tenants who are living in and it's already fit for occupation and everything is sorted out, then yes, it will go through the normal sales transaction process, which is now to do the due diligence just to check if this particular buyer, if this particular seller has complied with all the requisite laws, whether they have a pending charge against their sectional title. Maybe he acquired a mortgage at the time he was acquiring this apartment. So you have to check out whether he has completed everything, whether the apartment is in a good condition. So once you do all your proper inspection and due diligence, now the next thing to do is just to proceed with the sales agreement. We'll have the sales agreement drafted for you, capturing every clause. And then the next thing after that is to proceed now to do the completion processes, pay for the stamp duty, and then finally now we end up launching the transfer for you. And that now the sectional title, if it wasn't ready, we just speak to the developer that your name will be substituted with the previous owner, and the sectional title unit will come out in your name. If it is already issued, then we have to do a transfer. The initial title, sectional title now will be cancelled and a new one issued in your favor.
Gotcha. Let me do Dr. Muhammad's question, and then Martin and Mick Treasurer have as the questions in the queue. So Dr. Muhammad, which is a member,
I like this right here.
Asks, are you familiar with obtaining a medical license in Kenya if you already have a good standing license in the US?
Okay, so let me just take this. So it's very straightforward. You can obtain a medical license in Kenya, by the way. It has twofold. One, it falls under Class C professionals. So it's a Class C work permit. You will have to get the work permit as a professional. And then, of course, after acquiring the professional work permit, the immigration, of course, will require you to submit a certain level of documents just to ensure that you comply. And then after that, the next people that ideally you would have to go to is the KMPDC. So that is the Kenya Medical Pharmacy and Dentist Practitioner Council. So it's the council which is now licensed, or rather, tasked with quality control of ensuring the professionals are licensed, and then people get the requisite qualifications and approvals for them to practice medicine in Kenya. Yes, we have seen that they have been licensing a lot of medical foreign doctors, by the way, to be very frank, especially from India and Pakistan and those kind of countries. So people come in. Dr. Mohammed, yes, we can assist you. We can assist you get the license. We have contacts at the KMPDC that because we have worked with earlier applicants who are from Pakistan who we had helped acquire this license, and nowadays they practice their medicine in top-notch hospitals in Nairobi.
Interesting. I love that question. Not something I would think to ask. So I love it. I love it. That's cool. This one's going to be quicker, so I'll do this one first. McTreasure, question. Salespeople claim the rental income is 10%. I guess he's saying of the gross for foreigners, non-residents, but I couldn't find any official government source for this. What is the actual rate? So yeah, that's a good tax question.
Let me say this is a straightforward document, Ryan. Then the applicable monthly rental income for foreigners is 7.5% of the gross.
Oh, okay.
Yes, of the gross. It is also the same for locals in Kenya, so there is no discrimination. The only difference is that locals are required to pay monthly, and foreigners, when you look at the law, it says that, and this sometimes has been a cause for confusion for foreigners. It says that foreigners are exempt from MRI, or monthly rental income. But what this simply means is that they will still pay the applicable rate of 7.5%, just not monthly. So they will usually pay, yearly. Yeah. But if you have any questions, you can reach out to us on email, and we'll be very happy to share with you the government's formal link for this specific thing, and then you can literally see it yourself from the Kenya Revenue Authority website.
Just to add on it, Ryan, what Frank has said, usually it's there's a peg, they usually peg it, so it's 0 to 15 million.
Yes.
So if that is 15 million annually, so you can do your mathematics. So 15 million annually.
15 million is almost $120,000.
Dollars, yes. So if you are making a rental income of $120,000 and less, then it's 7.5. But if you're making more, it goes higher.
Okay.
Yes.
The follow-up question to this is it better to operate that through a company? And then I'm assuming when you have a business entity, then you can take deductions and then you can pay on net. Is it better to do that? Is that true? What's been your guys' guiding counsel on that?
So this is, it differs from person to person and case to case. I always say that this is really a mathematical question. It's not a guesswork. It's mathematical, especially with respect to the company situation, because it's a question of you see, in the company you will pay 30% of the net profits, right? So it's a question of whether will you have expenses that you can validly support that would make 30% of the net profit less than 7.5%. Okay. But also something else that we'd just like to add, if you have a company, for example, that does purely, you have a company and that company only receives rental income, most likely the tax man will request you to pay, regardless, they will request you to pay 7.5%, even if the property is in the name of the company.
Okay.
The way that you could then have it, jumbled up is, for example, you have a company, it has real estate, it is owned by a good doctor here, so he has another different practice. So in that kind of thing, it would be considered as part of the income for the company. And then in that case, then they would apply the 30%. But if you buy an apartment and it is in a company only, then there's a high chance that you would still just get charged 7.5%. But then
it's pretty interesting. It keeps it simple, because here in the U.S., I mean, real estate, there's 8,000 different loopholes. So, like, if you know how to maneuver, you do save a lot, but it gets complicated. So then you have to be able to, like, you have to get to a scale where you'd be able to afford the right tax people to do it properly for you. So it's pretty cool that it's straightforward in that sense. Interesting.
And reach out to us. We'll share with you the government link.
For the actual law, yeah, that's always helpful. Yep, said Asante Sana. Okay, Martin, this is the last question I have in the queue. Member, by the way, thank you. Martin's getting his money's worth, okay, but that's what we're talking about. Can a Kenyan company be 100% foreign owned, and can I, as the sole foreign director, be the only one with full control and access to its bank? And I just want to emphasize, because I think people can get uncomfortable when you're playing with the board of directors that we kind of talked about in the last video, and then we wonder, if we don't know the law, so then what kind of liability do you open yourself up to? So I think that's where this question's coming from.
This is a really good question, Martin. I can tell that you've really thought through this. So let me answer it in different facets, because it's more complicated than you can imagine.
Right.
So let's start from the general rule. The general rule is that as a foreigner, you are allowed to own 100% shareholding in a company as a foreigner. Okay. Now, the caveat to that is that if you do not have a work permit, then you must have a local director or a local representative. Okay. If you have a work, and I'll come back and pick that. If you have a work permit, then you could literally, as Ryan, Fagan, own the company in totality, not need a local director. The legal rationale is because if you have a work permit of any sort, then the presumption is that you are a resident in Kenya. So the presumption is that then they could call you and you could show up in Kenya, you know. But if you don't have residence in Kenya, you don't have a guarantee entry into the country. And so therefore you need a local director or a local representative who would appear in the company incorporation documents as a director.
With no shares.
With no shares. Yeah, so they could literally just appear there with no shares. Now, let's talk about this because this is where it gets a bit uncomfortable, you know, like Ryan said. So usually what we do, depending on the client, because clients have different needs, some clients would ultimately obtain a work permit, you know. Some would not want to obtain a work permit for a long time because if you're buying an apartment that will be ready in 2028, you don't really need a work permit now, you know. So usually would advise you to get a local director. What we'll do is that, now talking about liabilities and rights and control, would draft for you a nominee director agreement. Okay, this nominee director agreement would stipulate clearly between the parties what are the rights and obligations, what are the liabilities. So would slightly alter the structure and the incorporation of the company to strip off powers from this local director. Okay, so for example, we'd say that they have no powers to make decisions, they have no powers to enter into contracts, you know. But at the same time, they would usually also want you to give them protection from liability. So usually they would also say, okay, give us protection that if you as Ryan then messes up in the company, they will not be liable. Okay, and usually one thing that they've seen they would usually insist is that they would want an indemnity of sorts. So they would include a clause that says that you indemnify this local director from any claim that would arise from your own negligence if it happens. Okay, so usually we would do that. What is important for you to understand is that because this person appears as a director, they would also appear in the bank account documents once you open as a director. However, because usually we would also help you with the bank account opening, we would create a resolution for the bank account and open the bank account for you in a way that clearly stipulates that this person is simply a local director and that they have no powers whatsoever to access the company, to have visibility, to obtain statements, you know. So they wouldn't have any rights or obligations in the company. They wouldn't even have the PIN or anything. They wouldn't be signatories, so to say. The only thing that they would be required is they would just appear as part of the compliance requirements for opening of the bank account. Usually that is what we would do. The last thing that we would do, but there's many things
people are gonna be. That's where people are gonna be a little uneasy about.
Exactly.
Need a reassurance on that.
and that's what I'm saying. So this is something that you know, many other lawyers don't do, because you see, these are problems that are very specific to foreigners. These kind of things wouldn't apply for a Kenyan person, right? So this is why we really specialize on this. What we've also done, and what we also do for foreigners like you, Martin, is that we also create, at the point of bringing in place this local director, we create and make it for you the process for the what is it called, resignation of this director, okay, or the exit strategy. So let's imagine Martin, you want Ryan is a Kenyan, you want him to be a local director, but obviously you could have a dispute along the way. Because Martin, you're our client and Ryan is not, we would create for you documents that are sufficient to have Ryan exit the company at any point that you'd want. So at the point of incorporation, we'd create resolutions and have Ryan sign an undated letter of resignation that would keep in our custody, so that if at some point you tell us, okay, I want to remove Ryan and get someone else, in the event that there's a dispute between Martin and Ryan, would simply just lodge it. So that is another layer of protection for you, so that this person is not completely stuck on you. And even so, before the incorporation is done, like I mentioned, we would amend the articles of association and the incorporation documents to clearly stipulate what are the roles and responsibilities by RAN. So, but yes, this is a really touchy subject. This is how we usually manage it so far, in the event that you don't want to get a work permit. But if you get a work permit at some point, then you'd simply remove Ryan, and then you as Martin would have full control, and Ryan would not appear anywhere.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff, because that's, that's where I wanted to do this so that people can, because you see people say it, you see it online, but it's very helpful to have someone walk you through that. Not to say don't go do it yourself, because people have been Googling stuff and then they go and then they crash out and then they DM me later like, oh, everything went bad. So
and by the way, Ryan, let me say, we like to say trust but verify. So even if this local director is your friend, it could be someone that you know. Every single day, we go to court every single day because people have gone on disputes, right?
Right.
So even if it is your friend, please still come to us. Let us do for you the proper documentation. We'll definitely charge you. But the saying, a stitch in time saves 9. So it will be a cost element, but it will give you so much security for as long as the establishment exists, So yes, it is a cost on your part, but obviously, and from my experience, it is just worth it for the security that that you get. Yes.
Worth not having a problem, for sure. And I forgot to say this earlier, but a lot of people on here are kind of investor mindset, and one of the things that may keep you out of investing or diving deeper or putting your capital into Kenya would be the uncertainty of your legal cost or problems, or because if I'm strictly an investor, I need to know what it's going to cost me to execute on something. And if there's big question marks around all of these topics, how much is the permit, how much am I even able to operate, or can I have how much is a bank account, all those things can become prohibitive, especially like real estate, where many of your variables are already sorted. You kind of know what you're going to pay for a property, you're going to know what it rents for, you're going to know what the management, and you can kind of calculate a vacancy rate, etc., which is why I like real estate. But when you have a whole bunch of question marks around the legal or tax aspect, it could make people not want to do it. So I think, that's why we're doing this. And specifically the way that you guys have structured your business provides certainty to the investment.
And Ran, let me say, you see, the mission, we have our vision, mission, and purpose. Our mission as a firm is to make investment in Africa seamless, literally. Yeah. So that is exactly why we exist. In fact, it says we exist to make the investment process in Kenya seamless. Now, because we are so committed to that goal, we literally just specialize on the concerns and the problems that foreigners have. We have tried to structure our firm in the way that the processes are predictable, the costs are predictable. As we continue to move, the process will be more and more predictable, even with government interaction and whatnot. So that as you come in as an investor, we want to make it very seamless for you to come and invest. So like the question that you mentioned about the cost, question that you mentioned about processes and timelines, those are things that we have already hardwired in our system. So if you come, we already give you a price list. For example, we already tell you these are the timelines because we do it every single day. So at least that makes it predictable for you, for your friend. So you don't get scared. Am I being taken advantage of? Is it going to be? Are there surprises along the way? We really try to make it seamless for you.
Yes, sir. All right, and then we have McTreasure's question. Oh, yeah. This is a good question, and I'm gonna ask some follow-ups if I remember. What visa streams, e.g., digital nomad, can a foreigner have for eligibility to open a Kenyan bank account? That's a good question.
So you can open a bank account with any and all work permits. So Class D for employment, Class C for professionals, or any class, including the digital nomads, can also be used to open a bank account.
Class N.
Also, so class N is digital nomads, can also be used to open a bank account. So yes, I think to answer your question briefly, yes, you can, with any work permit, you can obtain our bank account. But also, we also work with some banks that, especially for investors who are investing in real estate, we work with some banks that would allow you to have a bank account before you have the work permit. Okay, so if you're interested in, usually this is to solve the problem of exchange. You know, sometimes you have difficulty sending money from the US to the developer in Kenya. So if you're in that kind of a situation, we can introduce you to a bank to work with, and would help you from start to finish until you obtain a bank account without yet obtaining the work permit. And then once you get the work permit, then we would regularize it. So yes, class N digital nomad would afford you the work permit.
I think with the digital nomad thing, you have to show that your income. I think part of their question is like, what is a valid way of showing your income on that permit?
So digital nomads is just in case there are people in the comments who are not familiar with, it's a kind
Okay.
of visa.
Schedule K. Which letter is that one?
Which one?
What's
For digital nomads? Class
Yeah.
N. N for nose.
Oh, okay. Duh, nomad. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. N for nomad. I like that. But essentially, if there's anyone in the comments who's not familiar with it, it's a kind of visa that allows you to live in Kenya and work remotely. Say, for example, you're employed in the US, you have a job in the US, but you just want to live in Kenya. The digital nomads is a good option for you.
But not employed in Kenya, right?
Exactly, not employed. So, which is why I'm saying you must have a business or employed in the US or in another country. If you also have a company in the US, so you don't have to be employed, but if you have a company in the US and you can demonstrate that that there's income from that company, then you also qualify to apply for the digital nomads. So it is a residency in Kenya, but it doesn't allow you to work in Kenya.
So as far as the income, would you send bank statements or tax returns? Because my tax returns is a lot different than, you know.
So what we do and what we've done in the past, we actually have a good number that we're doing presently because it's a very attractive option, and I'll tell you why it is attractive. Usually we would require from you your bank statements. We would require them certified by the bank, and we'd also require them notarized by a lawyer or a notary public in the US. Okay, so this is sufficient proof for us. Additionally, so the threshold to obtaining this permit is that you must demonstrate that you have. So the thing about digital nomads is that it's flexible. You can have it for 1 year, 2 years. I think now it's 2 years. I don't know if they made it 3 years, but you can even have it for 1 year. You must demonstrate that you have at least $24,000 to survive or to go through for that 1 year. The presumption is that you will need at least $2,000 to go through, to live in Nairobi or in Kenya for your rent and everything. So that totals $24,000 at the end of the year. So once you demonstrate that, then you can qualify. The reason why it is attractive is because you remember when we talked about the other forms of visas, for example, the investor permit, you need at least at least 2,000. I mean, if you're doing it for 2 years, the government issuance fees alone is about $4,000. Okay, the digital nomads only charges the government issuance fees is $1,000 per year. Okay, so
Yeah.
the price is.
So people keep asking about the investor visa. Is there any advantage? Because I think they're seeing that it's called that and then thinking, oh, I'm an investor, I'm going to get that one. Is there an advantage to getting that one when it's more expensive when maybe you qualify for a different residence?
So you see, how do I put this? Yeah, I wanted to structure it. So anyway, let me try and communicate it this way. The big difference between the investor permit and the nomads permit is that the investor permit allows you to work in Kenya and to operate businesses. Okay, the digital nomads visa only allows you to live in Kenya. Now, we have.
But when you say that, so does a work permit come along with the investor, or is it just allows you to operate a business but not work?
So yeah, so actually, no, let me come and talk about that. So a few things. You know, one problem that I've seen with investors sometimes when they come to the country is that because they're investing, that sometimes can really cloud their judgment. Okay, because of exactly what you said, what you mentioned, Brian. So because you've come in as an investor, you think the automatic option for me is an investor permit. Okay, but I've always told investors, divorce your thinking as an investor. So there's a difference between your investment and your residence, and we look at it differently, because sometimes your best interest for the residency is not your best interest for the immigration. Okay, so for example, imagine, Ryan, you have bought an apartment that will be ready in 2028. Why do you need an investor's permit now for an apartment that will be ready in 2 or 3 years from now, right? So if you want to live in Kenya, we would tell you, why don't you then simply just get a digital nomad, for example, for the next 2 years, and then once the property is almost ready, you'll get rental income. You can then convert it to an investor's permit. You see? So, but if you get an investor's permit now and then you pay crazy amounts of money, sometimes it could go as high as $6,000. Just wait. You know, let's deal with the digital nomads, and then you can convert it later. Okay. So I think the psychological aspect of divorcing yourself from the investment is important to begin with. Now, then coming now to your question, Ryan, getting the digital nomads visa again is just residency. It allows you to stay here. It doesn't allow you to invest. When you have a class G, which is an investor's permit, it allows you to become an investor. But an investment is different from employment. Okay? For example, you can be an investor in the sense that you have an apartment here, someone is, renting the apartment and is giving you money. That is an investment. So you're getting money, but you're not employed. Okay? Right. So you could also decide to come and work for FKC Legal, Ryan, as, say, one of our staff. You're not an investor, you're an employee. Right. Okay? So there's a clear distinction. And usually when you come to us and we work with you, we'd understand what it is exactly that you really want. Do you want to get employed? Do you just want to earn passive income? Do you just want to retire? Or do you just want to live here and enjoy the weather and still run your American farm? And all those, for examples, have different kinds of permits available to you. And you could literally have any of these four and you still have an apartment somewhere. Okay? So we when we look at it as investment lawyers, we look at your investment separate with what are your immigration or residency needs.
Okay. I think that sums it up, because you go on ChatGPT or you Google stuff, it's the nuance there is missing. So it's hard to interpret it yourself, because I've done it a million times. I'm like, is it a work permit or is it just residence? Like, what allows me to do what I'm doing properly, so it's important.
Yes.
We're close to 3 hours. I guess I'll sneak these last two guys in here and then we'll conclude. I appreciate your guys' time. A lot of people are finding a lot of value in it. It's funny because part of me wants to get someone to clip the different questions and make them separate videos, but that might be too much information for people. Plus, I've been having a hell of a time finding somebody to do the clipping. So if you guys know someone who is competent at that type of thing and aren't trying to charge me $800 a month, let me know. But we'll talk about that offline. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out. Go ahead.
In fact, Ryan, on that, I just want to say, maybe you're a good candidate for a strategic partnerships department.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So we'll see if we can introduce you to a strategic partner who can help you with that.
Which actually, it's fun. That makes me think, like, on its face, it's like, oh, I could find somebody myself, but spending a lot of time in Kenya and trying to like move, you could find someone, but can you find the right person? It's quite challenging, and you're going to go through hell trying to do it yourself when you don't know the culture, you don't know how to screen people, and everyone's willing to help. Trust me, they're going to tell you everything. So definitely a lot of value in getting into the strategic partner network, but we'll talk about it offline because it's just something I was thinking about while we've been doing this. Let me throw in these questions real quick and then I'll get you guys out of here. Does a local director need to be a local person, or can they also be a local company similar to a registered agent in the US? I think this is about, the director for the.
Yes.
Can a company be a director, or it has to be an individual?
So no, with respect, let me answer it in two ways. First, a director in Kenya, a director can be an individual or a company, okay? But this is specifically any kind of director. But with respect specifically to a local director, it must be a natural person or an individual, okay?
Nice.
But to answer that question, it could either be a Kenyan person, a citizen in Kenya, or it could be a foreigner who has a work permit.
Right. Okay.
So if you have a friend who has a work permit, they could then qualify to be a local director because they are resident in Kenya. I hope that answers the question.
McTreasure, for the bank account open as a digital nomad, is the status tied to your visa, i.e., if your visa expires, is your account still active indefinitely? That's a good question.
Yes, no, that's a good question, and honestly, it is one of a big deal that we've had to deal with. Yes, many banks, again, depending on the banks, they would usually put, especially if you open the account based on a certain permit, they would usually put a stop date on the account. So for example, yes, and this is very, very important. This is a really good question. Very, very important.
Oh, hold on. You're breaking up for a second. Oh no. You're breaking up. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, it came back. The last 30, 45 seconds. We're having technical difficulties.
Okay. Are you back?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay. Please tell me you're back, Ryan.
Yep. Good. Okay. Continue. I'm sorry.
Okay, good.
We'll wrap it up.
Yeah,
The internet's telling us we're over time. Oh.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Oh no.
It's a little in
shut
and
off
out.
the video. Let me just shut off the.
Yeah, it might help. Yeah, it's better now that you turn the video
so
off.
I'll just shut off. Hopefully this helps with the bandwidth.
Yeah.
I hope you can hear us quite well now.
Good.
Okay. So I was a bit disappointed because this is a good question, really, really good question. So let me say it again. Yes, your bank account is usually pegged on your work permit. So when your work permit expires, then usually they would also suspend your bank account. But usually what they do is that 14 or 21 days before it expires, they would usually notify you that your account will be suspended on this particular date unless you give proof of renewal of your work permit. Okay. And if you don't, then they would give you a chance to withdraw the cash from the account. What we have done for clients and what we always do is that so usually we'll keep a diary. So if you make an application for you, we'll keep a diary for you. Not that you'll forget when your permit expires, but usually we'll keep a diary for you. And then when that time comes, if say 31st December you don't have a work permit, on the 1st of January you don't have a permit, usually we would write to the bank and tell the bank that we have processed the application for you. And usually they would give you the account open on the interim basis that you have made an application for the work permit. Okay. And then usually usually they would open it for the next maybe 3 months, pending your approval of the work permit. So yes, it happens, but it's really not a problem as long as you can communicate to the bank, and you've usually done that for clients.
Okay, that's a little scary, that your bank account could get suspended.
Yes. So you have to really know and make sure that you renew. And if you'll not renew, then you let us know, and then we'll also write to the bank. But I mean, if it is suspended and then you find that you don't want to apply for renewal, then usually they would let you take up your money if you want. They would never, they would never take your money.
Closing the account. A couple million things. I'm sorry.
Yes.
All right, that's good. Yeah, because that's scary. I think what I gather in summary from a lot of this stuff, like you got to take the immigration quite seriously, and if you
Indeed,
don't,
yeah.
you're gonna have some troubles. Because I've ran into some troubles not having everything. I've been moving before getting everything together, so it's good to especially have someone that understands what you're trying to do and can legally interpret it and move you down the right avenue is very valuable. Versus you see people asking very specific questions, they're looking for loopholes, which is good, but at the same time there's a reasons why you guys choose to or would advise someone to move a certain direction, but giving people understanding as to the reasoning, I think, helps bridge the gap, because I'm sure you guys have consultations with people and then maybe they're like a little like, oh, I don't know about that, you know what I mean? So I think
Yes.
all this information can help give a basis of information or a map to someone that's landing here trying to figure it out.
Indeed.
All right. Just one clarification question from James N. member.
I like this one.
Basically, it's a source of income, either investments in Kenya or US-based income, Kenyan employment, which I guess that's a trigger for different pathways of taking things. I don't know if you have more on that.
So basically, it's source of income, either investment in Kenya. Sorry, I don't get this question. Would you know the context that he's asking, Ryan?
I think the context is what or he or she, I'm sorry, it's James,
Yes.
is what direction to go with the permits and residency, right? Like, do you need a work permit? Is the income generated here or is it outside? That would affect the decision on what they should apply for. That was my interpretation.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's more to add, but
So let me see the question again. So basically, it's about source of income, either invest in Kenya or US-based income can implement. So exactly. So he confirmed exactly. Do you know? Could James please clarify the question? I would really want to answer this question.
I think Ryan did.
yeah, I think I kind of. It's just that they're asking, like, depending on what I want to apply for, the source of my income is important.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the answer. So, okay. That's all I got. Look, Kung Fu Panda came in here hating and then disappeared because they were like, oh, everyone does this. I'm like, okay. I don't know if you guys are seeing the comments, but I was keeping it professional. I don't want to.
Yeah,
I get petty. I don't know if you guys have been on the other lives. I get petty sometimes, And
yeah, I literally have just seen now in the videos I was just speaking at the comments from Kung Fu Panda. Someone says he ran away like Kung Fu.
And someone said, I'm Austin Holloman's father. That's crazy. Anyway, I want to thank you guys so much for your time. I'm really excited to have found you guys. I'm glad we have connected. I think there's a lot of help that we can give people. And I think for me, something that's quite fulfilling is that maybe we're building a bridge. I know you guys didn't get into it that much, but I mean, bringing capital to the continent and Kenya, building business, anyone, investing or building a business is a good thing. And we really want to, see the continent grow, see more opportunities come. And I think, on my side, the investment is and the information around investment is my contribution to the community. And it's really good to have a bridge with you guys to be able to facilitate that, which I know goes kind of into your logo and everything with the African footprint and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like the synergy is really good there. I didn't know if you guys had any thoughts on, any of that.
Yes, actually, Ran, I just want to say thank you for making this possible. I was just literally thinking now when you are talking, and I was just like, it's interesting how this aligns to what we do and our mission. Because you see, we essentially want to make it seamless for investors to invest in Africa. And in truth, I mentioned it to you, Ryan. We're essentially setting standards on how investments should be done in Africa, on how investors should be treated. It's really not a must that we must work for all investors coming to the continent or to the country. Okay, so literally anyone in the comment can go and work with any other lawyer. Our role, and I told you this, like Amazon, is just to set the standard on how things should be done. So that other people will be like, oh, you know how Amazon does this? So lawyers in investment should do what FKC does for investors. So, and I'm really happy. I think the pivotal role that you play is to make it possible to reach that audience that would otherwise not been able to reach them, so that if anything, they could benefit from just this understanding. Because in truth, we live in an age where there's so much information, and sometimes that's a problem. It's just too much. And we're happy for you making that, making it possible to, to dispense this knowledge. I was talking to my people earlier today on Instagram and WhatsApp, and I was saying we'll be dispensing knowledge carelessly, So thank you for helping us pump legal knowledge and dispensing it carelessly to all the investors.
And on a light note, since you always speak about billable hours, how much should we bill you?
That's a lot. Yeah. I mean, shoot, some of these lawyers charge them $200, $400, $500 an hour. So dang, what else was I was gonna say? I lose what I'm gonna say so fast. Oh, you're breaking up again. The video. You guys are breaking up. I don't hear you yet. I'm still trying to remember what I was gonna say. Yeah, now I hear you. Yeah.
Can you hear us now?
Yes. Ikosawa.
Okay, I know, Ryan, I know what you did. Because we talked about billable hours and billing you, you dropped the network. There is no coincidence, Ryan. There's no coincidence.
Heck yeah, man. $1,500. Oh. That's in my bank account. Chief Niga says this was very excellent, very informative. Thank you, Wakilis and Ryan. We hope to see these fellows back here. Yeah, I was going to say maybe we do like a monthly thing. I remember what I was going to say. What's so funny is, especially I notice in Kenya, content is a little taboo, and then giving free information is kind of a new thing and very progressive of you guys. There's lots of gatekeeping going on over there. So for you guys to be so open with the information shows a level of confidence and transparency that I hope finds its value back to you. Because even me, when I started, because I've been doing content for forever, not that good, but people are like, don't give free information, make them pay for it. But I don't know, I have a different mentality. I think you add value, somehow it comes back to you, and hopefully partnering with you guys and everything, and we'll all do well together.
Yeah, no, I agree with you entirely, Ryan. And I just want to say that this goes back to, again, our mission and vision is just to make it possible for people to invest in Africa. It's not our mission to be, to hog all legal investment work in Kenya. So literally, whoever lawyer you want to go to, we're happy to just give this information carelessly, because at the end of the day, if people invest in Africa, Africa gets richer, people get employed, the investors get back their money. It's literally a win-win. And the only cost is for us to share information for free. Certainly, we're happy to do that. It's a very small price to pay.
Means a lot, man, because not everyone's doing that. A lot of people are just trying to, look, everybody wants to make money, of course, but if you can also help other people, it's a great thing. So I appreciate you guys. That's all I got. And with good 3 hours, I'll hit you guys up because I do feel like we should clip it, but I'm not going back 3 hours and clipping everything. So if we could find somebody to do that, that would be great. Because if we can title each question to what people are searching, it can be quite good for everybody. You know, even on Google, these questions, sometimes videos come up, and then we can start giving, because I'm telling you, I've Googled all this stuff myself, and the information can be conflicting. Even when you're looking at like the government documents, even it's hard to interpret. So it'd be a good thing to clip it out, but we'll talk about it. All right.
Yeah, sure. And Ryan will work with you actively to hopefully get someone to clip, because this is a lot of content, and I think the best value is in small clips so people can follow, you know. So we'll talk with you about that offline and hopefully find a solution.
All right, guys, I appreciate your time. Thank you for all the questions from the audience. Thank you for all the compliments and the appreciation. It feels really good because, again, building that bridge feels very meaningful to me on a Sunday when we could be anywhere else in the world, but we're here with you, giving you free information. Oh, share their contact information. Hold on, let me so this is their email, jumbo@fkclegal.com. What's the best way to contact you guys? What the WhatsApp number? Do you want to give it to me and I'll put it on the screen?
Yes, let me share it with you, Ryan. Just right.
'Cause I was giving out Franklin's before, and he was like, "Yo, have them message."
I think some clients are very lucky that they got my personal number. They get everything directly from the source, so it's quite all right. I've shared it with you. That's the number.
705-932-352. Okay. There we go. Here's the number on WhatsApp. You can hit them there as well. The information is going to be in the description box of pretty much all the videos now, as well. So you'll be able to get it from almost any of the new YouTube videos, and get your stuff straight. And really, I got to talk to you guys because all my stuff's messed up because I just been doing it all on my own. So we got to figure that out as well. I got some more questions for you, but
No.
all right, guys. I keep dragging it out. I keep staying by and then not. So this is the info. Appreciate you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night. It's almost 11 p.m. for us, so we are very happy to go rest. Yeah. And then start Monday tomorrow again.
All right. You guys have a good night. Thanks, Franklin. Abdi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. Bye-bye.
To you. Goodbye. See ya.
All right, guys, that's the show for today. Thank you very much. Hopefully it was informative. That's FKC giving back to the community and trying to provide clarity to everybody. If you liked the video, you can always share it to people, like the video, like pressing the like button, and super chats, super stickers, all that. Any kind of donations, memberships are always appreciated. I don't like to gatekeep, so it's like, could we make it members only? But I want to help everybody, but also it's nice to add perks to members. So we're trying to figure that out, but we'll figure it out. But thanks, guys. See you later.